Okay, the September 11th, 2023 Board of Education meeting is hereby called to order. We do have a quorum, and before we have our invocation by Dr. Lindsay, I would like to ask those who are joining us by live stream, as well as those of us in the building today, to observe a moment of silence to remember 9/11 and the victims who perished, the first responders, the survivors, and all of the families affected by this tragic event in our nation's history. Dr. Lindsay.
Let us pray. Most holy and all-wise God, we bow this evening to say thank you for all the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us each and every day. Ask a very special blessing for our staff members, children, and parents throughout this county here, that they will be safe from all hurt, harm, and danger as they travel to and from our school, and also as they try to learn in our buildings here with our teachers here. But now as we go into this meeting, I ask that you make sure and bless us with a very kind and spoken word. Our actions and our spoken words will be pleasing in your eyesight. All these things are asked this evening in your precious name, our Heavenly Father. Amen.
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 Please rise.
Just in time. Ms. LeBrec will now lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, if there are any adjustments to the agenda, Dr. Winborn, do you have anything? Any other board members want to make an adjustment or make a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair. I'd like to make a motion to add a discussion about potentially changing the school board election date to be on the general election ballot in November rather than the primary ballot in the spring.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. Is that within our jurisdiction to change that voting date from our standpoint here? Do we have the authority to change the voting date of an election, a public election? I'm not clear on that.
I'm not clear either. We are under a United States law, civil lawsuit from 1989, which sets forth the way the elections are held. So anything we do to change from the way the primary is done would need to go through the Office of Civil Rights, is my understanding.
I'm happy to address that. I guess it depends on, do you want to add it to the agenda and we'll address it at that time?
Yes, please.
Okay. We've had a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm opposed.
So am I.
I'm sorry.
How
I
many?
misunderstood that then. Were we voting for a discussion by?
Oh, the discussion. I just don't know that we have enough to discuss it.
Yeah.
Enough information.
I agree, not enough information. I probably need to rescind on what I voted yes for. I'm not sure. I wanted more of a discussion on their request to have a part that we make that decision. So did I hear our attorney say that she needs to investigate that more?
No, I was just saying I can answer the question of who has the authority to do that, but if it's going to be added to the agenda, then I would answer it when we get to it on the agenda.
Do you want to answer it now to see if it's any?
Sure. I mean, I can. It would be the same process as when you changed your term length, which would be local legislation and maybe federal court consent, federal court order. I would have to check on that, which I could do now.
Yeah.
I'm sort of, well, I need more details of what he's asking. I need more details of what Dr. Frederick is asking.
I mean, right now, we're just trying to put it on the agenda. We can talk more about it once it's there, because right now it feels inappropriate as we're just trying to add and amend the agenda.
Okay.
It's already,
I think it passed.
okay, the motion passed. We will add it. Under what section do we need this? Policy?
Perhaps under communication and community, section 3.
That'd be like 3.07.
Probably need to be 3.07, 3.06, and then change public comment to 3.07.
Do we need a motion to do that, to change the agenda?
We'll have a motion to adopt the agenda with that change.
Okay.
So that would be 7306 would be. We don't need a motion for you to change a number, do we?
Not a separate motion, but I would include it in whoever moves to adopt the agenda.
Would you like to revise that motion?
Motion to adopt agenda with the added, the change to 3.06 to talk about general elections and moving public comment to 3.07.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Might as well talk about it. Okay. Okay. Okay, our next item is our superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, board members, team members, and those in attendance and joining via video. As we all know, today marks a very sad and tragic day in our country's history, and like many of you, I can remember exactly where I was on the day that the towers fell and how I felt that morning 22 years ago. More than anything to me, I don't have any personal connections with what occurred, but every time this rolls around, it serves as a reminder to me to count my blessings and to be grateful. First, that we live in such an amazing country where we have so much freedom and opportunity, and how fortunate we are to live in such a peaceful community here in Granville County, North Carolina. And that we have all of these public servants that are here today working on behalf of children, and that all of our children are able to participate in a free public education, which is something that is not the case for most of the people in the rest of this world. So I like to take this day to count my blessings and to try to remind myself of all of the things we have to be grateful for and thankful for. So my heart goes out to all those who suffered on this day. I can only imagine what they go through, but if any good has come from it, I think that it certainly reminds us of everything we have to be proud of. So changing gears, as just to speak to the business of school, I am happy to report that the first 2 weeks of our traditional calendar students, first 10 days, and our first 5 weeks of early college have gone very smoothly. We've had a few typical issues related to buses and car lines and, you know, the first couple of week jitters with new students and parents and that type of thing. But all in all, it's gone very well. I would like to pause, just use a point of privilege to ask if there's anyone out there that's interested in being a bus driver. Please call Dr. Chris Ham. He is taking applications, and we have trainings coming up very soon. We still need drivers And of course, if you're interested in being an educator at lots of different levels, we do still have a few vacancies, but not many. I want to give a special thanks to every single teacher assistant, bus driver, cafeteria worker, the custodians, the counselors, the principals, our central office staff, and just all the behind-the-scenes support staff for just making this a great start. We have a lot of challenges and a lot of hard work ahead, but I feel a real strong sense of optimism out among our people in our schools, and I attribute that to them. I really do. So I'm excited. I'd like to give one specific shout out. I have seen a lot of wonderful things in the first 2 weeks, but I had a new opportunity. I went to the Granville Expo Center last week after school one day and visited the Granville County 4-H livestock showing. And if you've never been to one of these, they're a lot of fun. And we had a lot of our students out there showing their animals. And it was through 4-H, but it was also our agriculture and FFA efforts were included. We had many of our staff out there, a lot of our parents, and a lot of our students, and it was really impressive to see students of all ages competing and showing their animals, and the pride they took and the leadership skills they showed was really special. So I just wanted to give them a special shout out. It was something I had not experienced before in all my years here, and I was glad I was able to check it out. Finally, I'll say that I'm pleased that we have a great agenda tonight. You're going to hear some details not only about our academic achievements from last year, but also your board members and the public are going to hear some important details about the strategies and the action steps that we're going to be taking to support our 4 main goals this year, which, as we've stated, are safety, academics, and under academics I would include what we teach, which is our curriculum and the standards, and how we teach. And then also attendance, which is a very important priority for us this year, and of course behavior of our students in our schools. All 4 of these things you're going to hear more about tonight. So I think you will hear a lot of great things. So with that, thank you, board members.
Dr. Wimble, I have a question, please.
Yes, ma'am.
About the first 10 days. You have a count of the first 10 days, no shows, how things look according to numbers?
Yes, ma'am. The latest unofficial count, we are just shy of 6,500 students. And we are down, it's been up and down somewhere around 80 to 100 children on any given day. The final count, official count will be on day 20.
Day 20.
But we are, have about 80 or so to 100 fewer students than we did this time last year. So, but again, that's an unofficial number. Please don't hold me to that, because there are sometimes corrections made from the previous day. We have new teachers that are taking attendance and new data managers and so forth, so don't hold me to that number,
Okay.
but it's approximate.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Winborn. We want to welcome those of you who are here tonight at our September Board of Education meeting, as well as those joining us by live stream. We are excited that our schools are back in session and everyone is focused on moving our students forward. If you are a parent or guardian of a student or students in Granville County Public Schools, we consider you one of our partners. Parental support of our school's mission to move our students forward is needed and welcomed. For our community members and the business community, you are also our partners, and your support has been and will continue to be greatly appreciated. Our General Assembly has been quite busy with many bills that affect public education in our state. As a result, there will be policies we may need to change. Over the next few weeks and months, our policy committee will be meeting regularly to recommend updates to our policies. The state budget has not yet been passed, but as soon as it does become law, we will be working to finalize this school year's budget. I would also like to remind everyone that our school buses are rolling, and we encourage the public to always follow the safety laws that will help protect our bus drivers and our student riders. We are excited to be starting a new school year full of learning and extracurricular activities. You will hear tonight about some of the exciting opportunities that are available for our students. That concludes my opening remarks. The next item is item 303, reports from board members. I will make a few remarks, and then hopefully some of you will want to pitch in some information as well. We have not had any committee meetings since the 20th of July operations meeting, so there are no reports from the committees at this point. But we do have operations, finance, and our new human resource innovation committee scheduled to meet soon. And we do post these committee meeting notices as to time, date, and place on our school website. On August 31st, Dr. Winmore and myself and board members, I think Peace, Anderson, and Hayes, attended a meeting at the office of the North Carolina School Board Association. And at this meeting, several topics were covered. Self-evaluations of boards, setting goals, and developing protocols in order to be a more effective board was one of the sessions. Updates on legislation already passed and pending was another item covered. Retaining staff was also discussed. As to legislation, there were many questions and concerns raised by those in attendance as to how to implement these changes. Over the next few weeks, we expect to get more information and clarification, especially on the Parents' Bill of Rights. It has a lot of sections that are pretty much what school systems already do, but there are some sections that will require some new procedures and changes. Stay tuned. Tomorrow, Dr. Winborn, Ms. Curran, Courtney Curran, Board Member Hayes, and myself will be attending a morning symposium about the Parent Bill of Rights. Some of you are too young to enjoy, though, what I did today. I attended lunch at my granddaughter's school for Grandparents' Day. I will say I had a delicious cheeseburger for lunch, and it was great to see grandparents in our schools and the smiles on children's faces. I also got to see the J.F. Webb Band perform at halftime a couple of weeks ago. They looked sharp in their new uniforms and did an outstanding job on their halftime show. And as a bonus, the Warriors won that football game. I know there are some others that want to comment, so anybody else? Ms. LeBrecq, do you have anything from the Ed Foundation?
Yes, I do. So the 19th, which I believe is, next Thursday? Or wait, that is the Tuesday. So a week from this coming Tuesday. They're having their 8th annual Pig in a Raffle. And so this is a really big fundraiser for Granville Ed Foundation. They are able to put a lot of these monies back into our schools. So this is a really great event to be able to host and to support. It's going to be taking place at the barn at Vino, and doors open at 5:30 p.m. Tickets are $50 each and include a catered meal, 2 beverage tickets. Cash bar will be available, and entry into a raffle with the chance to win over 40 items, all valued over $100. So if you need to see tickets, you can always go to myself or Dr. Winborn. You can also reach out directly to Jennifer Kufalo, which her email is on the Granville Ed Foundation website, or if you know somebody else who is on the Granville Ed Foundation board, you can also reach out to them. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Are you sure? Okay. So I just want to give a huge public thank you to the Creedmoor Police Department. I know many of you already know, but their help with the new campus, the new Hawley campus in Creedmoor, has just been absolutely invaluable. They didn't just come in and help direct traffic and the carpool line the first week. They were actually at our open house that night, helping direct people where to go in the building and helping answer questions. And the whole, Chief Wheelis, Community Liaison Laws, Creedmoor City Commissioner Kaczynski, the mayor, Mayor Wheeler, Mayor of Creedmoor, they have all just been amazing and so supportive of our move into the Creedmoor city limits. And so I'm just so appreciative of all of their help that they have given.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit more with regards to the training that we attended.
it was very, very much deserving to me. And I really enjoyed it. You know, I really enjoyed all of the discussions that we had, and definitely the self-evaluation and other things that board members need to look at. And it just made me think, okay, yeah, we're all going to work this together. But I enjoyed the session.
Thank you, Ms.
Madam
Anderson.
Chairman, I also attended a session, and I was impressed with the board self-evaluation. I've been looking over it, going through it really, and I think it'll be a good tool for us to consider in doing and evaluating ourselves. Just the thought, idea, proposal, whatever.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so we'll move along. The next item on our agenda is Section 304, Selection of Voting Delegates for the North Carolina School Board Association Annual Conference in 2023. And from what I'm seeing, we have it on November 13th through the 15th, and the delegates meet on Monday, the 13th at 4 p.m. That was very interesting last year, some of the issues that came before the School Board Association. And we can have, I believe, 4 delegates. Is that how that works?
Yes, 4.
Mr. Peace is very familiar with that
We
organization.
can have up to 4 delegates,
I
yes.
think that's what we did.
And I'll volunteer.
All we need to do.
Only need 3 more now.
Okay. So we can, if we have 4 people going, we can have 4, and if we have 3 people going, who's planning to go? Ms. Hayes, are you going to be able to make it?
I was just looking at the days of the week. So Monday through Wednesday. I mean, I can,
Okay.
I'm happy to go, sure.
Okay,
And the voting part is really Monday afternoon, right?
Yeah, 4 o'clock.
right.
Okay. Yeah, I should be able to make that.
Is anyone else planning to go? Ms. Anderson, have you thought about it?
I will check the calendar, but I think I might be able to do that. So
Okay.
tentatively,
We'll
let's
assume you do.
go ahead and put
Okay.
me down.
Dr.
People-
Frederick?
People can attend one day, or portions of it, don't have to attend
Right.
the whole thing.
It's in Greensboro. I will tell you, the sessions are excellent. Honestly, I was so exhausted after, especially the second day. They had us, it wasn't a lot of standing around. It was just a lot of good stuff, and you had a lot of choices to make on the sessions you wanted to go to, and they were really, really good. So, Dr. Lindsay, you want to go? So right now, Ms. LeBrecq, are you thinking that's something? You can decide later.
Yeah, if Miss Anderson decides that she wants to go, then I won't take up her spot.
Okay. 2, 3, 4. Okay. And I'm planning to go. So I guess we need a motion to appoint these people, Peace, Williams, Anderson, and Hayes, to represent us as delegates in that part of the meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. The next item on our agenda is item 305, North Carolina School Board Association Video Subscription Service. This cost this year would be $1,500. It has a lot of good information on there if we take advantage of it. And it's also open to our employees should they want to train themselves and learn more about different aspects of the school system and the school board and so forth. And you
these
do get
webinars-
credits.
Yes, I was going to say these webinars would count towards your 12 hours that you have to get of training.
It would be nice, because if you're a little bit short and it's kind of hard for some people to, get off work and different things, this would give us an opportunity to have that available if we use it.
Do we have any idea, so I'm looking at the list of current topics. Do we have any idea if those will reflect the changes that are like currently being made in the legislation? So for instance, like the charter school funding, is that going to reflect the charter school omnibus that was passed? Because I would want, if we're going to pay for it, I would really like for them to be like relevant? Do we have any idea?
I don't. I would like to think that, like anything, it's evolving. As things change, they would update the material that they would show.
Right.
Do we know how much this was utilized over the past
I
year?
don't think
that
it
we-
was.
Okay.
And that's why I said if we utilize it.
Yeah.
And I would think if we utilize it, especially any board members, it would be nice to maybe either send out something to other board members and saying, hey, this is what this was about. This is some really good information, and we share it amongst ourselves.
There is a flyer that they send out that
Right.
has all the information on it with the topics of also.
I think, was
And
that, I think it's in
Yeah.
our.
It's linked in our.
They
It's a
could be
link, yeah.
sent out to the entire district, really, because anybody from the district can attend, and we
Right.
decide to do it. You know, teachers, bus
Teachers and
drivers,
other administrators as well.
Right. And I think it's worth the funding if you use it. Now, you know, if you don't use stuff, it's not
Well, I'll
worth it.
commit to using it.
Do you feel like the staff would get any use out of it?
I think it has some excellent topics.
I'd hate to put anything else on their plate. I think it's.
Well, we typically do have days reserved for professional development that are district-wide. They're not planned at the school level.
Mhm.
And sometimes there are sessions that staff have already done, and they're always looking for something new. So this, I think, might be a nice additional option. I'm kind of looking at team members to gauge their reaction. See some affirmative.
I mean, because $1,500 is a lot for us 7, but if we can get other staff
Mhm.
members to be able to utilize it and find it helpful, then that would be of way more value. to
And
me.
looking at the new releases coming, a lot of those topics would be, I think, of interest to a lot of our staff. Maybe not superintendent evaluations, but things like pitfalls of social media for school system employees. That would be an excellent one to be recommended. The August 17 one that's coming about sexual harassment. Special education. The parental rights, I'm assuming that that's going to be updated as it would think it would be, or they wouldn't be doing it at the school board.
I would certainly support having this available for our staff.
Motion to approve NCSBA video subscription service.
Second.
Any more discussion? Okay, if not, we're ready to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, the next item is the item we just added to the agenda. Okay.
Yeah, so just real simply put, I was reached out to by Representative Winslow a couple months ago, saying how the Franklin County School Board voted to change their election to be with the General Assembly election in November rather than the spring election. He said and supported that this is something that can come just from the school board. It is within our purview to make that happen. Then we would, I'm assuming, give our legal representation some kind of directive to move that up the food chain. But I think just when I was campaigning last year, I reached out to you guys a couple months ago when this happened as well, because something that I got a lot when I was campaigning last year, or in 2022, last year, was how many folks left the ballot in the primary election and wished that they knew that the entire school board election was that date and not on November. A lot of them were like, hey, I'm just getting in here really quick because I want, I'm just getting through this and then I'm going to study up on my candidates come November. Well, then I had to break their hearts and tell them that this was the entire election for school boards. So I feel like it's equitable to be able to make sure that as many people can vote in the election as possible. And especially when schools are such a high priority for so many folks, I want to make sure that we have as many people able to vote in that as possible. I feel like that's a universally good choice.
Could you address
Sure.
the
So there's-
1989? And then
Yes.
the last one we had, it said everything else would be the same, and what we would have to go through.
Sure. So Franklin County, I guess the board voted to ask for legislation, and then the General Assembly, Representative Winslow pushed through local legislation to change their election method. For Granville County, what I was just looking at was whether your court order that directed your elections specifies the date of the election, and it does. The court order, which was then enshrined in legislation by the General Assembly, says that the board elections will be held at the same time as the primary for county offices. So that probably puts you in a different position than Franklin. So what we went through last time to amend the court order is, because it was a consent order, we sought consent of the parties to the order was the Board of Education, the Board of Elections, and the federal government. So we got consent from the Board of Elections and the federal government to just ask the court to amend the order. And once we got consent from the other parties, it was easily done.
Ms. Dubison, you speaking with the mic, sorry.
Yes, in fact, the same judge is still on the bench from 1989. So that was and getting consent of the Department of Justice did take a while. Now, we did sort of do that during a pandemic and then a federal government shutdown, so I would hope it wouldn't take as long. So that was what was required, and then getting the local legislation just required, your local delegation to be on board. I will note that the local legislation that you have, and so the legislation that you would look at would be Session Law 292 from the 1989 session of the General Assembly. I will note that your local legislation and the court order does not specify the date of swearing in. So some districts where, and the default is December 1st, like the default in statute is for all boards to be the first Monday of December. But I know of at least one board that is elected in the primaries that has their swearing in July to shorten that period of time between the election and the swearing in. So that is something I think that would require local legislation but would not require court approval.
It's my understanding that last time we made a change, because it was a civil rights case, that it had to go before the Office of Civil Rights. Is that correct?
Well, it went to the U.S. Department of Justice. Yes, their voting rights division. And so they basically were checking to make sure that the change we were proposing was not going to interfere with the one party, one vote, or I'm sorry, one person, one vote in North Carolina. And they did ultimately consent. They didn't move quickly on it, but yeah.
In my conversations with the Department of Civil Rights in D.C., it was my understanding that the process that they used, because I was first elected to the board after the original court filing was done, and there's no action that's been changed on most of it, and we just went through, of course, Attorney Dubson just did that to get it changed from 6 to 4 years. And I'd just like to add, in my 30 plus years of running for office and getting elected, of course I represent District 4, but then maybe the people in District 4 are different from the rest of the county, because I never had any concerns about the election being held during the primary as opposed to waiting until the general for that to happen. So I just don't understand or see a reason to make this change, bottom line.
So, interestingly enough, actually, this is something that David Richardson and I talked about the summer before last. And we had actually discussed potentially moving forward with moving it to the fall election. And the reason for that was really because we discussed that huge gap between whenever you're voted for and then whenever you rotate on, which you addressed a little bit. But I do have to say, like, I think having that huge gap, I mean, I remember whenever I was, and Ms. Anderson, you went through the same thing. Like, it was like, yay, we're elected. And then it was like, and 9 months later, and a lot can happen in 9 months. I mean, I had a baby, so found out I was pregnant. That was crazy. You know, so I think for me, and like some of the things that David and I had talked about, was that huge gap is really kind of like, it's too much. It's really very, very long of a time frame to be excited, and you kind of go through that excitement, and then, you know, after 9 months, you're like, I mean, some of that excitement kind of goes away because you're not on the adrenaline rush so much anymore. You know what I mean? But I mean, not that I'm not still excited. But then the other thing too is, I mean, I do agree with, because we've talked about how many people actually vote during primaries versus how many people vote during the general election. And I don't know that that's, I mean, like, you go and you vote for a president, so most people just go to the general. That's what I always did. You know, you never really do the primary, but.
One concern is that our Board of Education in Granville County is supposed to be bipartisan. And one of the concerns I have is, say a parent or someone wants to run that doesn't have a lot of financial resources, particularly an independent, perhaps, it puts them at a disadvantage to have to run in a primary and then run again. It's a long election season for a nonpartisan board.
A quick point of clarification that changing the date would not change the election for school board to be partisan. It would still be a nonpartisan election. So
Well, I realize that, but you're dragging it out to two. It's like having two elections for the same thing.
Madam Chair, I haven't interrupted you at all, and I was just clarifying that for the audience or anybody that wouldn't know that.
Okay.
I have ran for this school board about 4 or 5 times. And I think everybody else on this probably ran once, or not at all. So, I mean, I just don't understand why people wants to fix what ain't broke. I know everybody has a reason, an ulterior motive for what they do, I guess. But I don't understand, you know, when everybody's on this board, at the time they ran, knew it was for 6 or 4 years. They probably was 6 when the majority of you ran for the school board. If you didn't want to do that time and wait the 9 months, I think they said, between the election and the time you take office, why are we not talking about getting sworn in July or June, or as opposed to doing what we're doing here? I mean, because it sounds like the concern is there's a long wait. And you know, when I first ran, I enjoyed that time. Knew it was coming, so you got time to prepare. But you know, everybody's not the same. So I don't understand why the length of time that between the time you get elected and the time you get sworn in has to do. If you want to shorten that time, that's what we should be talking about. But that's not what we're talking about.
So one of my concerns that I thought of just a second ago was equitable access to people that vote. You know, I'm in favor of having as many of our partners, our parents, our community members, have their voice heard in our elections. And part of that would be putting our election in the general, because so many employers give their employees the day off on the general election. And not everybody is privileged enough to work for an employer that would give them time off during the primary. And I think it's really important that people be given the opportunity to have a say in their representation. And the more people that we give that opportunity to, the better.
With early voting and voting on Saturdays and all that good stuff, everybody that wants to vote now have an opportunity to vote if they want to do it. I mean, there are people out there that talks about, I remember hearing somebody talking about how many people should vote compared to how many that do. Now, you know, if you live in a district where you got 5,000 or 6,000 people and 300 or 400 or 500 vote, I mean, whose fault is that? You know, people do what they want to do. And I know a lot of people don't take voting as serious as others, but we can't sit around this table and decide who they are. Because when it's time to vote, when the early voting come next year for the election, I mean, between the time that you sign up, they open the doors for early voting until the date that the voting occurs. Anybody that's interested and can and want to can vote. So, I mean, we can throw all of these wrinkles out there as we want to about why, you know, the election is so low, but the reason in a county of how many, and 10% or 5% of them vote is because they don't want to. Nobody gets through an election season without knowing there's voting going on that wants to vote.
They may not know, like Dr. Frederick addressed, that ours is just during the primary. And that's not their fault that they don't know that.
Whose fault is it?
I would hazard to say if we're not telling people or the Board of Elections isn't telling people, it's just one of those things that's just not made really clear. And I am not going to say that there is any comparison between participation in the primary and participation in the general, because there simply isn't. I mean, in fact, I'm pretty sure that I've heard you lament at some point that there have only been 300 or 400 people that have had say on who gets elected to our board. And when you put that against the 20,000 people, plus or minus a few, that participated in the general election in Granville County in 2022, like I can't even imagine how much more our partners would feel empowered if they had that much say in their elected representation. Why wouldn't we want to give them that opportunity? And the fact that you can even sit across from me and say that people, that their opportunity to vote doesn't, like that they can't, that it doesn't matter whether they vote in the primary or the general, that's absolutely ridiculous.
That is not what I said, sitting across from you. Sitting across from you, I said between the time that the early voting starts and the voting date, everybody that wants to have an opportunity to vote. Now, you can change that all you want to, but that's the way it is.
I maintain that not everybody knows that our election is simply in the primary. I maintain that, and I just think that moving it to the general gives more people the opportunity to have a voice in the election process.
There are always rationale for what you're trying to get done.
I also want to add that I did take the liberty of speaking to our legislators already, including our senator and Representative Winslow, and both said that they agree that more voters participating in the election is a good thing, and they would be happy to help this get through local legislation.
Just
Were
to
you speaking
clarify-
as
Excuse
for
me.
the board or just for yourself?
For myself, of
Okay.
course.
Just to clarify.
I just
one other
picked their
thing.
brain with a general question.
Historically, more people vote in the general when they're voting for a president than they do any other time, historically. Now, and I'm not going to try to argue that point that they don't, because I know they do, and you know they do. But we've managed to have a good cross-section of people from Granville County to serve on this board for the last 32 years that I remember. And I don't see why changing that's going to make a whole lot of difference.
May I make a suggestion? Attorney Dubusing, could you just sort of get sort of a summary of what would be involved, and then maybe get it back to us where we'd have just a little bit more of the process everything involved. It's my understanding too, correct me if I'm wrong, that when this last change went through just on the term limits, there were people contacted. I wasn't contacted, but I know some people were on the board, minority people were contacted by the Civil Rights Division. So there's a lot that goes on there. And I'm not saying that it can't be done, I don't know, but I know there is going to have to be a process.
For sure.
So could you get
Yeah,
that back
absolutely.
to us?
Mhm.
Okay.
I can write a memo.
Now, like you said, it did take a while because, well, they had
It
the
did.
pandemic.
I would hope that we could get it through faster this time. Federal government was kind of distracted when we were seeking their consent last time.
So it would basically, after anything was agreed on, would have to go to Office of Civil Rights first. Is that correct?
To the Voting Rights Division of the Department of Justice. And I will say, it's like legally, we could go straight to court, but I know in federal court, the first thing the judge will ask is, well, have you consulted the other party yet? And so it just is much faster and more direct in front of the judge. He was able to just sign it without a hearing or anything because we had gotten their consent ahead of time.
Okay.
Then maybe the best option is for her to do that inquiry then with the civil rights to even see, because if it's not a possibility, then there's no need to
Yeah.
proceed, right? So maybe that's the best option, is for her to do the inquiry to see, because I mean, if it's not legal, then we don't even need to have, or they're not
Yeah,
willing to agree to it,
right.
then there's no need to even continue the discussion.
I can certainly, say that the board is contemplating it and is interested in whether they would consent.
Well, and then small other thing, just Madam Chair, to reference what you said about other board members being contacted by the Office of Civil Rights, if anybody gets contacted by that regarding a decision that we're currently talking about, I feel like that's a perfect thing to bring up by the reports for board members to be discussed, because we're not discussing that right now. We don't have time. It's not on the agenda. But if one of us was contacted by the Office of Civil Rights, we should have known about it, especially when it is in regard to a decision that we were discussing as a whole board.
And it was shared with the board at the time.
At the time, it was.
This
It was,
has been
okay.
a year or two ago.
Oh, okay. That makes sense then. So I apologize.
That's right.
You got your orders?
Yes.
Thank you. We'll move along now, the rest of the agenda, and Attorney Dubus, in our next meeting, you'll have something for us?
Sure.
Okay. Yep. Our next item is public comment. It's 3:07 now.
Madam Chair, no one signed up for public comment, nor did anyone submit electronic public comment.
All right. We'll move along to the consent items. We have 401, 402, 403, 404, 405. Eliminate 405, but 401 through 404, they are meeting minutes from the months of December 22, December 19th, 22, January 9th, 23, January 23rd, 23, and they are it's a consent item to approve those minutes. Dr. Winmore, do you want to address what we may be looking at on that as far as how much time it takes, in case someone is wondering why it does take so long to do these?
Yes, Madam Chair. Briefly, I'd like to thank Ms. Shave for her hard work. Completing a single meetings session of minutes requires many, many hours. Ms. Shave, of course, takes lots of great notes, but she has to go back and listen to the entire meeting, and as she does, kind of stop the tape and index everything, and then make sure that she is fully representing what occurred in written form. And I know that we've had some conversations trying to seek out if this is truly necessary, since everything is now cataloged by video. And also the transcriptions can be, I think, converted off of, since these are posted, to board docs, can be made available to those that maybe are hearing impaired or something.
Yeah, my recommendation was just that we have a list of motions made and vote on it. But the other details certainly could be referred to the video. Yeah, we've talked about that.
So I would advocate that maybe we consider that as, that board, you all consider that as an option. It just seems like a lot of work that could be better spent
Agreed.
on other efforts.
Agreed. Yeah, that sounds like a good plan to come up with how we want to do it, possibly, and present it maybe at the next meeting to vote on it and see if we want to move in that direction. Because I believe you told me, even if our board meeting lasts 4 hours, it might take her 7 or 8 to go through all of it.
She's pretty good, though. I mean, but it's still very time-consuming.
Oh, yeah. And we do appreciate her. Do I have a motion to accept these minutes as presented?
Motion to approve consent items 4.0, 102, 03, 04 as written.
Okay, Dr. Fredericks made a motion.
Six.
Mr. Peace has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. The next item is 405 Sunbelt Staffing Contract. And does anyone have a question about it? I'm sure somebody could answer it if we do.
I had a question about the Sunbelt staffing contract. So I pulled that up, and I was reading in section 2, and could somebody provide a little bit of clarification about the hourly rate?
So the 72.
$72 per hour?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I know that does seem like a very high amount, but of course, that if we were paying a employee, their rate may be significantly less, but it would not, their hourly rate would not include all the additional costs that we pay for FICA retirement, et cetera. Plus, we are paying for the convenience of this company to go out and find this person and contract them for us. So we're paying for their overhead, in effect. So you are correct, it is a very high amount, but this is also, this contract is for one individual, and we are hopeful that it will not be for, we're hopeful that we can find someone to fill it.
What about transportation? Did they charge us for that, or is that included?
I'm not sure.
I
would have-
believe, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And I was sorry, I just read like over it again. And it does say further down that we can't like tell them to go to different locations during the day, because then it would incur additional costs,
Right.
if that's the correct.
So we don't pay-
Their drive here would be just part of their 72.
Yeah, we don't pay between home and work site, but if there was,
Right.
I don't believe this is for like an itinerant position, but Dr. Cotterman is here. She may be able to provide additional information about the site and position this is for. So I'll ask you to put you on the spot and come to the podium. Thank you.
And please don't misunderstand. Like I realize these positions are absolutely needed. I just question, like, if we offered an EC position that paid $72 an hour, we may not have to go through a staffing company, but then we would be forced to pay everybody that.
That's correct,
So-
and benefits and all of those pieces that are not included in this contract.
Right.
This is actually a separate classroom, an EC separate classroom for a high school, which has students that have significant disabilities. So it's a very difficult area to staff. This gentleman is a retired teacher who has experience with students with significant disabilities and has graciously come back. Unfortunately, that is the going rate, and actually that's probably lower than some of the other companies, which is why a lot of EC teachers are going to these companies, because they're making a lot of money, especially if they're retired and able to come back. But he has done a really, really good job with our students and made some really good connections. Dr. Winborn is correct. We do have an international teacher who will be coming to fill that position. So we will be giving him a 30-day notice at some point, and he won't be fulfilling the contract, but he was kind enough to come back this year to help support us and support the kids.
So this is for what, the whole contract is for one position?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and last year we actually had 3 contract teachers, and we were able to fill those positions. So now we just have this one, and that position will be filled once our international teacher is able to get here.
Dr. Conran, if for some reason we find ourselves in a bind in a few months, someone leaves, whatever, would this be something you just reactivate?
We could, yes.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
definitely could, if he was willing and we had the, the opportunity to do that, yes.
Okay.
And just one other thing, why, or maybe, I don't know, maybe you can answer this. So at the top of the contract, it says that, it's entered into on this day, 27th of July. So any particular reason why we're getting this like later?
That may have been when they started the negotiation for this, and probably the date didn't get changed, but he would.
No,
his
he
start
started the
date
first day of school.
Is the first day of school.
Mhm.
We didn't
Okay.
pay during the summer months.
Okay, that's what I was.
Yeah,
trying to
no, we
figure
don't,
out. Okay.
he's only there when students are there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good questions.
Yeah, in the term lower down, it says the contract was approved from August 21st to June 14th.
Do we have a motion to approve this contract?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. The next item is field trip approval. And I think there's an attachment that was in our notes, our board docs. I looked at it. I think these involve mainly the band. Okay.
As well as Virtual Enterprise and FFA.
Right. Any questions about that before we?
It's pretty exciting that our virtual enterprise is going to include all of our high schools on their retreat. It's very awesome.
Yes, I would invite board members, if you're interested, to come out and visit while they're there at Camp Oak Hill. It's going to be like a leadership retreat, so I'm sure they would love to see you there if you
Yeah.
wanted to swing by.
I'd love
I plan
to.
on going, so I'll certainly let you know
Please
if
do.
you need to carpool.
Please do. Okay, great.
Are we doing this, Madam Chairman or Chairwoman, are we doing this separate or do you
Well, I
want to
thought
do?
maybe someone might have questions about the things about the roofing, so probably do it separately. Field
Motion
trip
to approve
approval.
field trips.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next contract is approval REI Engineers. It's been recommended that we approve as presented. I think Mr. Graham is here if we have some questions about this.
Yes, ma'am.
It seems pretty self-explanatory. These aren't the only places that we have roofing needs.
No, ma'am.
But they're the most urgent, is that correct?
That's correct. These are continuation. Like Cradle is almost, that's a project that's been ongoing. This is
Mhm.
the last of the Cradle project. Additionally, with Butler Stem Middle, this is sort of referred to as the barrel roof. That had to be, addressed.
Okay.
The other contract, which is the FCS CIP, that is for their routine services to inspect the roofs and make sure that they let us know when we're in trouble and when we have another impending repair that comes up.
Any other questions, comments? Do we have a motion to
Motion to
approve?
approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposed, so motion passes. I think the next item we have is academic success section. The first is the resolution supporting local control of school calendars. Several of us went to the board meeting for the commissioners last week. They welcomed our superintendent, seemed excited. He's here just like we are. And we had provided them with the joint resolution that I think Attorney Duvison had prepared, and we had requested that she prepare. And it's ready for us now to approve. And then we'll get a signature on it from us and one from them, and it will go to our legislative team.
There was one thing that I wanted to bring up. I think this is an awesome move. When we were at our LEAD conference, I did have the opportunity to speak with some representatives from Vance County, and they seemed really interested in supporting this as well. So I thought it might be nice if maybe we sent them the finished copy. There's also Montgomery, Stanley, and Person County on there as well. So maybe we can, you know, reach out, and if we all come together in support of this, you know, like if they, or maybe if they adopt a similar resolution with their county commissioners, that it could be even stronger than what it
Yep.
already is.
Well, what we can do is certainly share a copy with it if no one objects to it.
Mhm.
This will be public record anyway. So
Yeah.
we can certainly share that with, some surrounding counties. The more support, the better.
Absolutely.
And I do believe the last time they ran local legislation, it at least included Vance together with Granville. I don't know about the others.
There was an amendment added on, and a bunch of people signed on, or a couple of other school districts kind of tagged on with ours. So, yeah, maybe they'd be interested in showing their support in the same way that we are. I thought it would be nice if everybody was
Just
okay
make a
with
note of
it.
that and get it out tomorrow. Does anyone have any idea when they're voting on this, that particular bill?
As I understand it, and I think we kind of touched on this before, that it was one of those things that was kind of put on the back burner until after the budget, which hopefully will be this week. I don't know.
That's a $64 million question.
Right?
When is
Everybody
the
wants to
budget gonna
know.
be passed?
So you know, I expect that there's going to be a little bit of time, because I can't imagine, you know, that this is going to come to the floor this week while they're all in budget talks.
Right.
So.
So that gives them time to get it out there. That's good. Okay. So we will need a motion to adopt this.
Approve as presented.
Motion to adopt resolution supporting local control of school calendars.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
And thank you, Attorney Dubeson, for helping us with that.
So I guess you'll coordinate to get the signature of Mr.
Right,
May
they've
and
already
you together?
passed it.
Okay.
So all we have to do is sign it and get it to them for signature. Okay, the next item is under Section 5, Academic Success. Dr. Winborn, I'll let you take it away.
All right, thank you, Ms. Williams. This time I'd like to ask Mr. Perry and Ms. Amy Rice to come to the podium, and they will start things off with an overview of the results from last school year's standardized testing.
Good evening, board members. Tonight we want to present information with you that has been publicly released as of last week regarding the testing and accountability across the state. So we want to dive in a little bit deeper to the information that's tonight regarding Granville County Public Schools. So Ms. Rice has worked very hard on this information, so she will share the data with you and answer any questions that you may have.
Good evening, board members. We'll start with just our focus and our initiative this year that we're focused forward. But in order to focus forward and truly be focused, we do have to look back at our data in order to say, where is it that we did well and where is it that we need to improve, so that we can then put strategies in place to do exactly that as we focus forward. So, next slide. Just for your information, just a reminder of what goes into the school performance grade. This is not the school report card. They are two separate items. The school report cards will be released later. Our school report cards include much more information, teacher retention rate, student absenteeism, all those things that do really give an overall picture of a school. This is just the performance grade that's based only on academic achievement, which counts for 80% of the grade, and then growth, that's 20% of the grade. These are the items that are included in that school performance grade for all of our schools. And in addition, at the high schools, it's not listed there, but for high schools, it also includes graduation rate, the percentage of students who graduate in 4 years, as well as math rigor, how many of our students get through Math 3 by their senior year. So those things are included there as well. Just a tidbit of information about our performance grade model. Our school board, our state school board is looking at revising this, and there's a large team of looking at other factors into that school performance grade. But for now, we use this model of 80 and 20%. Next slide. So the big picture, the big bird's eye view is here we have pre-COVID numbers to this past year. And so as you can see, as expected, and this is national trends, in 2018-19, before COVID, most across the nation, our performance was higher than it is now. We took a significant dip in that 2021 year, rebounded some last year, and then our overall picture for in 2 years ago, in 21-22, and then last year we made a still slight improvement over the previous year. So overall in our district, we are up with the percentage of students who met grade level proficiency as compared to 21-22, but no one can deny we have work to do to get back to where we were in 18-19, and we weren't happy with where we were then. So we all know that we have work to do. Next slide. So here is the comparison between the state data, and you can see in our district data, and I have included the percentage of schools that exceeded growth, met growth, and did not meet. You can compare where we are with the state. And then also in parentheses, it's where we were last year. So I've given you this year for both the state and last year for both the state and district. So we had 19% of our schools exceed growth, 37% met, and then we had 44% who did not meet growth last year. Our school performance grades are listed there. We have 1A school at 6.3%. That's very close to the state average of 6.9. And then you can see the B's, the C's, the D's, and the F's. And then our low-performing schools, we did have one less low-performing school last year. So we have 8 of our schools last year, which is 7 this year. So 7 of our current schools are low-performing schools. And the 4-year graduation cohort was slightly down last year at 79.3%. Next slide. So our schools who exceeded growth are Butner STEM Elementary School. That was 2 years in a row for them. Granville Early College High School, and I really can't tell you how many years that is in a row for them. They do outstanding work. And then Cradle, actually, they exceeded growth last year and had met the year before, so they increased last year as well. Next slide. So other factors to celebrate first. All 4 high schools, as well as Granville Academy, showed improvement in both their growth and proficiency. So our high schools, I'll be honest, year before last, were not where we wanted them to be. We did see a rebound last year in all of our high schools. As I said, all of them showed improvement in both areas, their growth and their proficiency. In fact, South Granville High School and Granville Central High School met growth and improved a letter grade. So they came up an overall letter grade this year. Proficiency in all 4 EOC courses, which are given in our high schools, improved from 21-22, with biology improving 10.8 percentage points compared to the previous year, and Math 3 improving 15.7 percentage points. We have 1 less school designated as low performing, and that actually moved Granville County Public Schools off the list of low performing school districts. And then as a district, again, I highlighted this earlier, the bird's eye view, we improved the overall percentage of our students reaching grade level proficiency. Next slide. So our challenges, where do we need to focus? So when we're looking back and you think, well, why is there an issue of our schools who did not improve, or certain grade levels throughout the district? It is when you get down into the weeds, you can really attribute where we had a lot of teacher attrition, many vacancies, and also we already know that Dr. Winborn has highlighted our attendance rates. I just wanted you to know that 23.2% was our average for our district-wide attrition rate for teachers last year. It's almost a quarter of our teachers. The average attrition rate, if you compare between schools that exceeded growth to those that did not exceed growth, was 14.8% attrition in those that exceeded growth, Yeah, 21% in those that did not. Granville Early College, the school with the highest growth in our district, they had 0 attrition rate. All of their staff were full, and they were fully staffed the whole year. The attendance rate of our schools, you can also see a difference between those who exceeded versus those who did not. The attendance rate of schools that did was 93.1%, with those that did not was 89.2%. So while these are not excuses for why schools may not have exceeded, if we're trying to identify areas that we need to improve, this is why we look backwards at the data so that we can be more focused as we move forward. And so with that, next slide. It's esse quam videre, to be rather than to seem. So we will not use our data to try to say that we are something that we're not. Our data will represent where we need to improve, and we will be honest about that. But at the same time, also not beating up staff who work tirelessly and just tremendously every day, wanting what's best for students. So again, our 4 areas: safety, we all want that first for our children, but academics, we go back to what Dr. Winborn mentioned earlier. We're going to teach the standards, and we're focused on how we teach the standards. Our BT program this year is very focused with what our BT1 teachers will do, those first year teachers, and they will be focusing on classroom management and the standards. And so that is the key for them to focus on all year. We have something different for the second year BTs to focus on, and then of course those third BTs. And also support in place for those international teachers who are in our buildings to address our academic areas. Attendance, thank you school board for helping us put a little bit more bite into our attendance policy and just sending the message to our parents that your students being in school matters. It impacts their academics and our overall school performance. And of course our behavior. And so we have those things in place as well. Yes, ma'am?
I noticed on one particular school that did not do as well as we kind of thought it would. The chronic absentee rate was, I may have looked at it wrong, was pushing 50%, or really high. I mean, it just was shocking. We've got to get these parents to get these kids to school, because that's a lot of time missed in an instructional day.
And as I used to say when I was in a school building, and district staff would say, well, it's like that across the state, or it's like that across the nation, I used to say, well, that doesn't make me feel any better. You know, I just, what are we going to do about it? And so, while misery loves company, or we might like to say, it's a nationwide problem and it's a statewide problem, well, what are we going to do about it here and for our students? And it is a partnership between the board and the policies that you put in place, and then us having to just roll that out and make sure that our parents and our students know that we are serious about this. Any questions?
Do you have any idea how many of our low-performing schools are also designated restart schools?
So right now we have 2 designated restart schools.
Mm.
I just backed up. We have 3 designated restart schools. 4 actually. We have, Cradle's not yet, I'm sorry. We have 3. We have 3.
Mm-hmm.
Because one closed.
And one closed. That's why we reduced
4.
down to 3.
And were they all designated low performing?
So they are all currently designated low performing, yes, with one of them meeting growth and the other 2 not meeting growth.
So with them being designated as restart schools, aren't they also given additional funding and like a certain amount of like charter school flexibility to address learning challenges? And
Yes, they are. They have charter-like flexibility. So they have school calendar flexibility. They have some HR flexibility as well. And so I can speak just because I know the principals of that school. Even when you have the funding and flexibility, it's still finding the staff. It's just filling the actual positions that you had vacancies in versus we can now add a few more to lower class size. It's still also just finding the staff to fill those positions.
one of the things that I would love for us to talk about is, or later, if it's still an issue, is the possibility of them coming back to school earlier. I know that they have calendar flexibility where the rest of the district does not, and I think that would be an excellent way to, address those additional learning needs for those specific families and students. I don't know the feasibility of it. I know, different families would have kids in multiple schools, but, if we have that flexibility and we're not meeting the kids' needs, whatever that looks like, then we obviously, like you just said, we need to say, what are we going to do about it?
Right.
So that's, I know that's an option. So if we need it, we should.
If I may, Ms. Hayes, that's a great point. I'll add one clarification, though, that the Restart schools don't actually receive additional funding. They just have flexibility to spend
funding.
the money that's allocated to them in different ways. So no more money flows from the state for them.
Thanks.
Other questions?
That's it?
There you go.
Thank
No
you.
other questions, thank you. So we'll move on to the next section, which is our academic updates for the evening. And that is. Tonight, board members, we'll share with you our monthly academic updates. We're focused on our summer programs. We had some fantastic summer programs this past year, and our team will provide you more information about what occurred and some of the numbers, as well as our reading challenge and our book bus information, as well as a little bit of overview about some future topics and things that we'll discuss in future board meetings.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hi, summer program updates. Next slide, please. So we'll start with reading camp. Here on this slide, you can see the number of students we served this summer in reading camp by grade level. We did offer reading camp or Read to Achieve camp to students K-3. Now, the state only required us to offer reading camp to second and third grade students, but as a district, we decided that we wanted to offer it for our kindergarten and first grade students as well. So we're really, really happy that we were able to provide reading camp for all students who needed it, grades K-3. Next slide. Here's our summer adventure and summer bridges. Now, summer adventures was a program where students received enrichment in STEM activities. They also received some tutoring and some math. This wasn't a requirement or a state required program, but it's a program we've been offering for the last several summers. And here we have our 3 sites and the number of students that we served at each site. Summer Bridge, that's our transitional program, and we offer that program to students rising kindergarten, rising 6th, and rising 9th grade. And we're excited about the participation that we had with our transitional program as well, especially down in kindergarten, getting those students ready, those who were in pre-K, and those who may not have had any formal early childhood education before coming to kindergarten. So those are our numbers. And those are the number of students that we served. And now, Angie will talk about secondary.
Our CTE program offered 3 different opportunities to students in grades 6-12 this summer. And we had 103 students earn 121 industry-recognized credentials and over $54,000. 19 students completed in our own internship program. They worked in the maintenance department, bus garage, book bus, human resources, federal programs, and child nutrition. Our students visited and or had presentations from over 15 business and industry partners, and they also toured Advanced Granville Community College. Next slide. Part of this internship program was we really wanted students to be able to display those portrait of a graduate employability skills. And so 2 of those employability skills, integrity and collaboration, we asked them what they learned about integrity and collaboration in the survey. And I just wanted to share some of these quotes with you because I thought they were pretty neat and definitely showed examples of how they learned integrity, for instance, by continuing to follow protocol even when my boss is not there to see if I'm doing it correctly or skipping steps to speed up the job. And then the other one, when I wash buses, I am not directly supervised. So I make sure that I am not slacking and getting my job done right, even if no one is watching. And then with the collaboration, students described collaboration with both adults and other interns. I like the second quote where that student said, I had to work with most of the adults here getting supplies into the school off of buses and trucks. And then the last one was a direct responsibility given by the superintendent, and this student and their boss made sure that they worked to get that done. So definitely good examples of integrity and collaboration. Our high school students also had an opportunity to recover credits, maybe that they weren't successful on the first time, or to earn credits for the first time. We had 172 students attempt credits towards high school graduation, and with a 97% pass rate. 134 of those were recovered credits. 38 of those were credits earned for the first time, and 26 students were taking courses so that they could graduate in August of '23.
Book bus. We were excited that the book bus did roll this past summer as well, and we've given the number of students that were actually served each week during the summer. Okay, next slide, please. Also, for the past 3 years, we've been having a summer reading challenge, and so what we do is we challenge students at the end of the year to read at least 800 minutes if they're secondary and 500 minutes if they're elementary during the summer. They go home with a reading log, and they also get books from Scholastic shipped to their homes during the summer. And so we like to recognize those students who participate in the summer reading challenge. And here we have all of the students listed who participated from each individual school. And you see we have some students that read quite a bit, some over 3,000 minutes. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And here are our winners. We have our elementary, middle, and high school winners. And these students will receive gift certificates from Scholastic. They can take those gift certificates and go to the Scholastic store and purchase items that they choose. And we will also give all students who participated a summer reading challenge certificate and an ice cream treat at their schools. Thank you, Mr. Perry. And we're excited because September 17th is Constitution Day, and we know that we are to observe that. Because Constitution Day is on a Sunday, district-wide, we will be recognizing or doing activities in recognition of Constitution Day on Monday, September 18th. And we are excited because we have purchased small replicas of the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and the Declaration of Independence. Each school will get a packet. Principals will be able to pick those up at the principal meeting later this week. So they will have those for their schools, and then also teachers will be doing a variety of activities to support Constitution Day.
All right. So for future academic updates, we wanted to be able to provide you with data. If you see the nice little photo there, it says, nice story, now show me the data. So to be rather than seem, right? So each month from this point forward, you will begin to share data in 3 different areas: academics, behavior, and attendance. And that's just an example of what you'll see on the screen. With the academic data, beginning of the year with the iReady assessments, M-Class, NC check-ins, just a variety and slew of data that we do receive on the academics of our students. So we'll be sharing that information with you, as well as behavior data coming from Educator's Handbook. Being that we've been in school now for at least 10 days, we're starting to see incidents being reported. So we'll share that information with you all, and protecting student privacy, just giving you a big overview of what the infractions may be and where they may be occurring as far as what's happening with our student behavior. And we're excited about the Power School data regarding attendance. So you'll start to see more about attendance, not just for the actual data for attendance, but also to begin to recognize attendance at our schools. We do plan to make a first announcement in November, because the October one would have been, when we get the data, will be after the board meeting. So we'll recognize both schools in for October and November who have the best attendance for the month and the most improved attendance for the month. So looking forward to sharing that information with you all. Do you have any questions?
I have a few comments here. I can see that y'all done a great amount of planning for this upcoming school year, last year and the present. Have you had any ideas how you want to try to get these parents engaged? I mean, you have summer programs, bridge programs, all things we're doing trying to get the parents involved and enrich the kids' lives as well here. But have you thought of how we'll get these parents involved in being invested in their child's education?
So we are looking at doing some marketing for some of the programs that we are looking to have going on this school year. But also we have a family engagement position that we're hoping to make a recommendation on very soon. I think we may have. I'm not sure where that process kind of landed right now, but hoping that will help to spearhead some of the activity to get parents engaged and families engaged in the students' progress at school.
Well, you're right, that family engagement person, she's been on staff before, right? I mean, had that position before.
Yes.
And a presenter who I knew very well had a plan to come and speak, and no parent came to that session there. So we can put a lot of things in place, but our parents must reach out and give up what we're trying to give their child better. And that's really it's our problem.
And we're going to continue to share that information and solicit the input from our parents, and hoping that they will attend these activities and events.
Yeah. We may start off in the school level. You know, sometimes when parents can engage in child's school per se, each school maybe they already have a plan to get their parents involved. I'm sure they may have that in their schools right now, maybe through PTO and some group like that as well. Now, all parents may not be involved in PTO. You got to find a way to. Normally, those parents who are engaged in PTO, kids are doing well. So those parents who are not fully engaged, you got to find a way to reach them, get them into our schools here. So please work on that. I know you will, and I'm here to help you in the way that I can.
Thank you.
Ms. Perry, I think it's really good when you can get the principals in a little competition they like that, improving attendance. I'm assuming that the schools themselves will have activities to encourage the kids and reward, and that's part of what we're doing as well, correct?
Absolutely. That's a part of their school improvement plans and their MTSS plans for the year.
Great. Look forward to seeing good results.
So I was just wondering what kind of feedback you've gotten already from the new cell phone policy. I'm interested to see how the policies that we adopt actually affect our staff and how they're dealing with it, and don't sugarcoat it.
From what has been shared with me, the principals love it. And there have been incidents, of course, looking in educators' handbooks, students are still trying to break those rules with the cell phones, but I think that it has been a very positive change, particularly for our middle school students, to protect that instructional time. I know our teachers appreciate it.
Okay. I just, I'm always reluctant to put any more on their plates because they deal with so much that I know like having to enforce an additional policy that they weren't already enforcing can be a little burdensome, but I'm hoping that we set the right tone from the beginning. I know we had excellent messaging, and so I hope that you continue to get good feedback. Yeah. Let us know if you don't, please.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
I have one more question. Sure. Have we had any major incidents in our schools since in the first 10 days? Physical altercations or something we to call in?
Yes.
We have. High school, middle?
High school.
Okay.
However, I would note that it's fewer than this time last year.
Those kids go home for, did they get consequences?
Yes, ma'am.
We are strictly enforcing our code of conduct this year.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you. This is Spark NC and esports.
So I'm inviting Mr. Michael Spradlin up to present on Spark NC and esports with Granville County Public Schools. This is something new for us. Definitely excited about the possibilities for our students and their families, particularly with both Spark and the esports, because that's new and innovative for students to be able to compete in these activities. But I won't steal this show, and come on up, Mr. Spradlin, and share more information about Spark and esports.
Awesome. So Spark NC is a new initiative, and the goal is to get students involved into careers in the high-tech industry. We all know Apple and Google are coming. That's not a secret anymore. And we want to make sure that Granville County students have access to those jobs when they get here. We want them to see the opportunities that exist. And that's what Spark is about. One of the highlights of the Spark program is the Spark Lab that is at South Granville High School. Those are the pictures you're seeing right now. In that lab, you see computers. These are high-tech devices that will allow us to do coding and video game design that would not be possible in a Chromebook. You just can't do it. You'll also see collaborative workspaces where the students can come and work in small groups, and they can solve these complex problems that are being faced by these high-tech companies. And so this is the Spark Lab. We're really excited to get that started and moving in South Granville. Also, I forgot to almost mention, we have a communication system which allows us to work with community partners as well as partner districts to share information across the state and give these kids as many opportunities as possible. So how does Spark NC work? This is a different type of learning environment. Typically when you look at a class, you're looking at 8 units, and you go through your 8 units and everyone goes through the same 8 units. Spark NC is a catalog of right now 20. They're hoping to have by the end of the semester it'll be open to almost 60 units. And the children are going to choose what they want to learn. If their interest is in cybersecurity, they're going to spend their time working in cybersecurity. If they're like, I know I want to work with computers, but I don't really know what that means right now, they can do cybersecurity, they can do UI, they can do coding, they can do esports, data analytics. All of these careers that are growing very rapidly in the state, they have the opportunity to start getting experiences with these opportunities. Once they complete their 8 courses, they will do a capstone project, and then that will all be submitted through the platform, which will lead us to our next slide. We do need a approval, and we're asking for the approval of the creation of a local elective for Spark NC titled the High Tech Accelerator, and this will allow our students to receive high school credit for the work that they are doing on this platform. Do I want to continue, or want me to stop for Spark and then do esports second?
Mr.
That's an
Spradlin.
elective.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Mr. Spradlin, if I may, can you clarify for the board what you mean by units? And does it take the same amount of time to do this as it does for like a traditional class? Can you talk a little, like what might it, if I were a student and I wanted to get a unit, a credit,
Yeah.
what would I do?
That's a great question. So there's actually several different options for that. Right now we have a lot of what would be asynchronous units. It takes about 15 hours to get that coursework, okay? That's why it's stackable, so they can stack those 15 hours however best suits their interest. It also could include experiences. So just this summer we took, I think it was 5 or 7 kids, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the number, to Raleigh for a summit. And they actually got one of these units by attending a 2-day conference in Raleigh where they got to see demonstrations of AI. They got to tour SAS, which was a very interesting experience for myself. I was on the trip with them on that. So there's experiential parts. You'll notice that their digital District C Teamship is actually a partnership with a state organization where students, they may work with students from all over the state to solve a real world tech problem that they present that idea to a company. So all of these ways will be stored on the Spark NC platform, and then they can get feedback and they will move forward with that. One thing I will say, this also looks different. This isn't going to be, I hand you the rubric because if you get these many points, you get an A. You get this many points, you get a B. It is completion based. If you do the work, you completed it, which makes sense because again, we're trying to get them ready for tech industry jobs. In the tech field, they don't give them a letter grade. They say the job's done, the job's done. If it's not done correctly, I will tell them, nope, you got to go back and you got to fix this. So that is how these things will work. And so every student that completes this may look completely different. They may do 8 completely different things, and that's 100% okay. Does that answer the question you were posing, Dr. Winborn?
Thank you.
So that's going to look really good, possibly to an employer or to a technical college or anything they may want to go into.
Yes, ma'am. The idea is they'll have a portfolio of work that they could take to either an employer or to a 2-year or a 4-year college.
Great.
I'm a little, this program that we approved last year, there was a grant that we approved, this one? Yes. So we chose South Granville for the pilot program then. Will they ever be expanded to the other two high schools in the area?
So all 5 high schools in the area have
Five high schools?
Oh, I'm sorry. I count Granville Academy, Granville Early College as well. Sorry.
No problem.
No, that's where I came with that number. All of the high school students have access to this program. And my intention is to visit the other high schools if I needed. And even if they can't come to me, then I can come to them and give them that support that they need if they're at Granville Central or in one of our other high schools. I don't know how the lab expands. I cannot answer that question. That would be someone else's level. But the idea is that all of our high school students will have access to this.
This school year or next school year?
Yes, ma'am. This year, we're hoping to start on October 2nd. We'll be hoping to start kids in the platform on October 2nd.
But you don't know how that's going to work. You're trying to figure it out?
So because it's a virtual platform, they don't have to necessarily be in person.
Okay.
The in-person component would be for support purposes primarily.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
So I received some of the emails when we, gave the big push and to get the information out about the program. Do you have any idea how many students we're going to serve?
Right now, I have around 50 students have already expressed interest,
Wow.
and I expect that number to increase as students get into the platform. I will be visiting high schools actually this week and next weekend to talk to classes. I've already got teachers who are letting me come in and to talk to kids. So I'm hoping to increase that number in the next couple of weeks.
Perfect. So are we only making this available to high school students? Because I know that some of our high school classes and electives that are available to 8th graders.
That's a great question. Currently, our plan is just for high school. However, I believe there are 8th graders and perhaps even some 7th graders who may be interested in this. And as an elective, the board could decide to allow them to take it.
I have a very tech-inclined 7th grader, so I'm super interested.
I will say that from my perspective, from the logistics of managing the platform, there's no reason a 7th or 8th grader couldn't have access. It would really just be a decision that you all would have to make.
Is there a limit to how many students we can serve? Because I don't want to over.
I believe right now the number is 240, is what Spark has told us. We have 240 spots in this program.
Per year?
Per year, yeah.
So maybe we could give priority to high school students, and then after that, because we want to fill every single space, right?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to. I think it's a great opportunity, but I want it to be fully utilized. So, if our high school students don't fill up all the spaces, I would love to open it up to older middle schoolers.
We have the opportunity to do that, but do we have the capacity as far as teacher? Would we have to hire anybody else?
As of right now, I think I can handle it as long as it doesn't go above 240. If we go above 240, y'all gonna be taxing what I can do. But I am happy to go to middle schools if I need to help support students, whatever is needed to get these kids. Because this opportunity is something I truly believe in, and it's the future of our state.
And I do want to add that while Ms. Kern and I were at the in Raleigh today, that in the budget presentation, that Spark NC was one of the things that is being included in the budget proposal. So there's, there might be the possibility for additional funds later on down the road, which was initially one of my concerns and basically my hesitation. So that's really exciting.
So it's an exciting opportunity.
So my husband's actually in IT, and he said, like, when he saw this, he was like, this is super cool. Like, he was like, I totally would have taken advantage of this whenever I was in high school, because he was like, this basically is a huge springboard for anybody who wants to get into cloud or AI or cybersecurity, which all 3 of those industries have super huge needs right now. Like, he's in IT security, and he's like, we just can't get enough people in where he works. So
Yes, ma'am.
I would suspect that we would, after the first year, when the kids that love it start talking about it, you're going to see even more of a growth, probably mushroom a little bit on you.
I will say that the students who went with me to Raleigh were already excited, and I see the more kids getting involved, and the more that it can grow. So I see a lot of opportunities for this.
Let me ask a question with regards to, you showed South Granville, the setup there, but you said most of this, as far as the children, it will be online for them.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And as they start, if they have problems or whatever, they'll be coming to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is that You think
I
that
can
puts-
handle it.
Oh, you can't. I look like that was spread. You really.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
The nice thing about virtual platforms is
Uh-huh.
that they're very easy to manage once you get them set up and running. And the platform has a lot of simplicity to it. It's very, in a way, it's very linear, which allows students to work at their own pace. So I think, we're going to have some hiccups the first couple weeks. We all know that, but we'll get through them, and we will keep coaching and encouraging these kids to keep going through this.
Great. Sounds great.
I'm sure your involvement with Granville Academy gives you lots of pertinent experience here with this too. So.
Yeah, a little bit of a knowledge about virtual programming.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
all right. Do you want me to stop there, or do you want me to go on to esports?
At this time, perhaps the board could consider the recommendation we have to approve this as an elective course credit for middle and high schools students.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, do we need a provision about opening up additional spots to middle schoolers, or
I think he can manage that.
Okay.
But, Mr. Perry took note of your, I think we can distribute those.
okay, just fine.
I will say, to be determined, we're still finishing a couple things. We will be having an open house, and we will definitely make sure you all are invited to see our new facility and how we're going to be using it. So now I get to go on to the other fun stuff, I guess, to talk about, because I get to talk about all the technology tonight. Esports. Esports is something that I have been familiar with, again, with virtual environment for about 3 years now. The kids have been asking us, can we have esports teams? And Dr. Winborn asked me, can we get this started? And so, yeah, we have been doing a lot of research into esports. And it's interesting, what we found is that it's just like any other sport. When you have kids involved with the school and they have a vested interest, they come to school. They do what they're supposed to in class. They participate in their academics. We can see growth in physical and mental health. And so we are starting an esports program. It will start in 2 of our high schools initially, but again, we are going to open it up just like you would any sports. If they are at their school, they can come to the other ones. At South Granville, because the lab you just saw, and then Webb has a computer science lab that is already set up, and we're getting ready to run that esports, okay? We will be doing a fall and spring season to coincide with the season by a company called Play Versus. Play Versus allows us to do all of our competitions online. So there's no travel costs, which makes this a lot easier to manage from a logistical standpoint, especially since Play Versus, we be in the eastern region, we can be playing schools in Virginia. So we don't really want to have to drive all the way to Virginia. So in the fall, we're going to do mostly kind of an open gym setting, because again, some of the games we're going to be doing are a little new to these kids. But then we will start with competitive teams, and we hope to have a conversation about students, winning championships, winning tournaments, and winning games. So we would definitely look forward to that. We are going to limit it. If you go to Google and esports, it is over 60 different games that you could play. There are tons of things and ways that we could go. We chose Rocket League and League of Legends. The reason being is majorly, they're team-based. It is not a kid going to sit in a classroom, 10 of them around one or TVs playing by themselves. They are going to be part of a team. They're going to be working together to solve a problem, and they're going to be working as a team. So that was one of the biggest reasons we chose those 2 games, with a goal of 8 to 16 students for the first season. And again, that's a minimum. I can see this going up a lot.
Are you
So-
seeing this as being something the girls will be just as interested in as the boys?
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
They were, like I said, we went with 5 young men and 2 young ladies to Raleigh, and they were all interested in the opportunity. So I see lots of students being potentially interested in this opportunity.
So you're looking at this as more of like a fun, less of like a profession kind of?
Well, no, because I really want to make this, it's going to be fun to start, but we're going to have structured practices. So it's not going to be like we're in competition, but it'd be just like you would, baseball's doing open sessions right now at South Granville. So it's the same thing. They're going to be learning how to play a game. They're going to learn the strategy. We're going to have to coach them up in how to develop their skills. So while it sounds like it's going to be fun, it's actually going to be a little bit of work. We're going to make them be part of a team, and they're going to have to work because we want them to compete. We don't want them just to play a game. We want them to actually be in competition and competing to win. So, yeah, so we will be doing competition, and we'll be structured practice. It won't just be everybody come in, let's play. So does that answer your question, Ms. LeBrecq?
Yes.
I love this for a couple reasons. So
Sorry.
I have several different trains of thought going through my head at the moment. I need to siphon through them all.
So Rocket League is awesome. Like I know, it's a great game. My kids played it all through COVID, so I know it's a great communication tool. It's a great team building tool, and I love the fact that we're going to offer this alternative to kids that maybe aren't so athletically inclined, and offer them this other alternative to still being on a team and building those team skills. And your enthusiasm is palpable, and I love it.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I've had to learn both of these games. This is not my wheelhouse in terms of online gaming, but I'm learning, and I am very excited to share that enthusiasm and that learning with our students.
Now, question with regards to, you have 8 to 16 students per school. How does that work to give everybody a chance, or how is that working?
So the idea is that while we will be doing competitions and training, practice just like you would in any other sport, we are actually going to have students being able to watch and commentate on this. And the reason for that is esports as an industry is appraised right now at about $1 billion, just to give you an idea of the amount of money that is behind this. NC State is just building an esports arena. So that tells you what's coming into this area. There's scholarships. That's one of the reasons I chose the games I did. These are the games where they can go to a college and they can get scholarship just like a student playing softball or any other sport. So that is why we want to keep growing this. That is the number based on the number of competitors we would need to field teams. If I have to field more teams, then we'll figure that out. And that would be a very good problem to have. That would be a problem I would love to have to bring to you all to try to adjust. Any other questions about esports? Thank y'all.
Thank
I'd
you
like
so
to
much.
just take a moment, Madam Chair, if I may. Mr. Spradlin, hold on one second, please. I am very excited about this. I think we have the absolute perfect person leading it. Mr. Spradlin, you've done an amazing job in your other roles, but you have already demonstrated not only do you have the drive and the aptitude, but you've got the passion for this. So I'm really excited, and I'm looking forward to great things happening. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate the presentation. We're all excited.
Thank you all.
We'll have to come to the games.
I know.
Our next item is 505 attendance procedures update.
Board members, we just want to give you a brief update on our attendance update or attendance procedures based on the policy that you guys approved back this summer, and we're really appreciative of that. But want to give you a little bit of feedback on where we are right now in that process and where we're headed in order to wrap this process up to really get it fully implemented for the school year. So I'll turn it over to Dr. LaWanda Norfleet, our Director of Student and Family Services.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Superintendent Winborn, executive team. I bring you greetings from our Student and Family Services Department. In thinking about our support, we are continuing with our scope of work plans that we established last year with the intentional focus on safety, academics, attendance, and behaviors. With all of our core disciplines that we have, we're fortunate that this year we've added to our fold our college advisors and our parent engagement which will be helping support our initiatives. We're also stressing the importance of our student services teams at each school sites. Principals have been provided this information along with each discipline. The purpose of these team meetings are to make sure that we're catching any of those students that may fall between the cracks when we're thinking about behavior, when we're thinking about attendance, academic performance, as well as safety measures. Next slide, please. So you've already heard a little bit about our initiative for increasing student attendance. As a result of updating the attendance policy, we are also updating and monitoring our procedures. We are looking at moving forward at this point with our district attendance committee. We've been fortunate enough to have 2 meetings to date with around about 12 members with representation from building principals at each level, district level, our school social workers, and our school counselors. We've forged the responsibility of making sure that we are putting in consistent practices for site attendance incentives as well as consequences. Our team has been able to provide feedback on the procedures and student and family attendance outcomes, as well as district incentives. Mr. Perry highlighted earlier about recognizing schools on an individual basis for most improved attendance and best attendance. So those are just a couple that we've already had a chance to discuss. Next slide. We met last Thursday, and the feedback from the team, we've already had to revise the information that's before you today, which is great. We've drafted new procedures that will be shared with principals this week during the principals meeting, as well as we've drafted a new district attendance matrix. So this is just kind of a snapshot of some of the things that we've already kind of drafted to put in place as we move forward, making sure that those attendance letters are being distributed to families. Phone calls are being made with 3-day absences, 6-day and 10 days, which is not just a Granville County Public Schools procedure, it's a state mandated, where we are making sure that we are contacting parents and guardians to let them know when there is an attendance issue. We're also asking our principals to help reinforce that we have that parent-teacher engagement piece in there, where we're asking teachers to make sure that they are making attempts to also reach out to those families to see what's going on, you know, if there's an additional concern or issue that we're not aware of. So we're making sure we're forging positive parent-teacher relationships as well. We've also kind of strengthened our school social work follow-up procedures and making sure that we have consistency across the board in how we are looking at consecutive absences, when a home visit should be made, additional contact, following up with the school, our data managers, and our principals, making sure that we're also bringing those students with attendance concerns back to our student services teams. Again, our opportunity to make sure that we're not missing students fall, you know, and allowing them to fall through the cracks. And a big part of the revision of our attendance policy detailed the importance of having a district attendance committee, which is where we basically kind of drafted some of our new process and procedures that we have in place to make sure that we're making all attempts to interact with students and families before we look at moving forward with any type of truancy enforcement dealing with our court systems. So again, this committee has been wonderful to date. We've had some rich, robust discussions that have sparked many ideas in regards to not just consequences, but incentivizing and in stressing the importance that attendance is attached to student performance. So, any questions?
Yes. What is the break point when absences are considered chronic?
Well, that was a part of our rich discussion, and we wanted to make sure that it was consistent. And as a committee, what we have said is, because our letters go out at 6 and 10, if we have a student that has hit that 11th day mark, at that point we're looking at it as chronic and possibly truancy.
And just a point of clarification, we're talking about unexcused absences.
Correct.
Unexcused.
Thank you.
Dr. Norfolk.
Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned about home visits, where they are very, very important when trying to find out why kids not in school. Are you giving the social workers any type of training, how to make sure they go into a safe environment, what to look for, making sure who's in the home that day, and not taking in? Have they been trained how to make sure they go into a safe environment?
During our monthly PLCs, those are some of the topics that we do discuss in regards to safety measures and what to look for. We currently have the practice that school social workers are not making home visits alone. So they're either partnering up with one another or they are using the assistance of our school resource officers.
Okay, thank you.
No other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you for your presentation. The next item on our agenda is Under fiscal responsibility, item 601, financial update, COVID funds.
Good evening, board members. Before you have our regular COVID funding update. Again, just because of the timing of the report, this report is as of the end of July. However, I know you guys are very interested in those funds that are highlighted in yellow, the expiring ESSER funds, those that expire on September 30th. And I am pleased to let you guys know that the PRC is the program code, that top one, 171, has been fully expended. 174 is unable to be expended. We could only use that in that very first year, and that was not able to be used. 176, which is Summer Bridge, we have approximately 11,000 remaining in that fund. However, Ms. Hunt is on it and is making sure that those we're getting all of our invoices in place for that. Our Career Accelerator Program, 177, has been fully expended. And then we hop down to the 185 and 186. Those are the EC portions of the grant. And those balances are still up there, 184,000 and 13,000. However, they are in process. And what it means when we say the funds expire on September 30th is that we have to have the funds encumbered by September 30th, meaning we have to have purchase orders in place. Those purchase orders have until December 31st to be liquidated. So we have until December to continue spending. We just, every dollar has to have a plan by September 30th. So we are well on our way to making sure that these expiring ESSER funds are fully expended. So I know they have worked hard to make that happen. And we do appreciate that. And then of course you can see all of those unhighlighted are our remaining ESSER funds. And of course those will be expiring next year at this time. And as you can see, our funds remaining as of July 31st is $8,689,000. And of course, you see, following that, you see our normal report that we have, and our percentage. I know we've always looked at what percentage has been personnel costs, and that's really unchanged. That is solidly sitting at 76% of our expenditures for ESSER dollars are salaries and benefits, which is not unusual. And that's been pretty consistent. Do you guys have any questions about these COVID or ESSER dollars?
How many people we have employed who are receiving pay from those dollars, becoming, salaries?
I don't have that number of people in front of me actually right now. However, we have some positions that are specifically in that our 181. That's that big dollar amount that we have, that ESSER 3 K-12 Emergency Relief Fund. We have some that our instructional support are paid from those funds, and we have other support positions that are paid from those funds as well. Our long-term substitutes are being funded with those dollars. All of those have a hard end date of June 30th.
June 30th of 2024.
Yes, exactly.
Board members, just remind you to please get your mic close because it's not picking up well on our video live stream. So just as a reminder, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. We now go to item 7, Health and Safety Operations Facilities. 701, Safety Update. Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. I'm happy to be with you this evening to talk about few updates on safety. It's a change in topic that we usually discuss. I'd like to begin with the obvious question that has been asked a great deal, and that has to do with traffic. I'm very pleased. Thank you, Ms. Hayes, for preempting my presentation with exactly what I had to say. A lot of people were very concerned about how things were going to work at the new location for Holly, and I'm very pleased to say that it went very well. The first day we did have some hiccups, and it did take, it took a while, but you expect that at the beginning of the year. Fortunately, we had a meeting right afterwards, and as Ms. Hayes said, the incredible collaboration with Creedmoor PD and Dr. Chisnell and his group, we had a very productive meeting, and we were able to problem solve and come up with some tweaks to it. And the next day, we cut the car line in half. And I know that for parents, that's a huge benefit. So we were able to clear that upper lot, in 27 minutes. And so that was a cause for celebration there. So at Holly, I'm happy to say things have gone well. And I have to say thank you to for all the support from the entire community. There was a great deal of interest. The mayor and one of the commissioners was present to see how things went, and we appreciate their presence and their support. But in all seriousness, we've had just an incredible amount of collaboration with that project, so thank you. At Mount Energy, I'm here to tell you, if you have not already heard, that we do have traffic issues at Mount Energy, and traffic does back up on 56 somewhat. It doesn't seem to back up for a great deal of time. It's brief, but when it does, if you happen to be caught in that, it's a nightmare. I understand that. I will tell you that there are 2 queues of traffic depending on the grade level, so both lots are being used currently to try to pull cars off of the road. But it just so happens that tomorrow morning I will be at Mount Energy with CLH Engineering. We've contracted with them, and they are going to be there to give us their professional advice. I know Dr. Winborn worked with them on some projects, I think at Stovall. And so we have a track record with them, and they've been great to work with already. So I look forward to giving you updates on whatever their recommendations are and improvements we can make with that. Regarding the safety partnership, I'm very pleased to announce that we are contracting with On Target Preparedness. And you may know that one of the primary members of that group is Mr. Doug Logan. Doug is a member of that group, and he served as the interim county manager for a while. And so we're going to be working with Doug directly he's going to start out with a general assessment overall of our situation and give us some feedback. He's interested in taking a look at the accuracy and adequacy of our reporting, what we do, in addition to the things that we have in place. And when we were talking about sort of the scope of what he would be doing, we talked about developing an all-encompassing safety program. So I'm very excited to see where we end up with that. That group has liaison contracts with other health departments around the region. So this is something that they do already with different institutions. So we're really excited about that work, and that will begin shortly. Regarding the security checks, I'm proud to say that our schools are engaged in conducting regular security checks already. Northern Granville, Mount Energy, Granville Central, Hawley, Early College, J.F. Webb, West Oxford have all conducted multiple checks using metal detectors and wands. Butler STEM Elementary School has already conducted 4. These are the ones that they've documented in the we have a document that we keep track of all the drills. So I'm really proud of those principals who have jumped on board with that. Additionally, I wanted to let you know that you may already know if you've attended games, we do have that process in place, as we did tonight here for the board meetings for the football games. It causes me a great deal of heartache and alarm, as I'm sure it does you, when I read the news about what occurs around even in our own state at these games. So we're on top of it. And again, I can't say enough about our partners in law enforcement and what they've done to help us out to provide a safe environment. Yes, Dr. Winborn.
Mr. Graham, we speak to that the policy we have regarding bags too, so everyone's aware.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Winborn. Yeah, the policy is no bags, and we try to advertise that clearly and have the ADs announce that of the visiting schools, so it's not a surprise when people come to us. So we just, the policy is no bags, and that helps eliminate a lot of confusion when they come in. So, and we have signage, and we're continuing to expand on that signage, so we have that clear. Regarding the safety drills, happy to say, first week everybody took care of their responsibilities of conducting the fire drills, and many schools are in the process of scheduling with the fire marshal, which is something a little bit different. They're being proactive and reaching out to Mr. Reeves to say, hey, would you come? We're going to do a fire drill, on this date. Will you come be with us as we do this? So we're trying to sort of reinforce that relationship we have with Mr. Reeves, and I'm proud to say that many schools have already done that. Lockdown drills are being conducted soon, and that's something that we'll be talking about with principals this week. I'm happy to say that we're on track. The November Safety PD event, we are working with Robin Edwards and Jason Rivas with the Emergency Management Service or System. And is that right? Department, mm-hmm. Yeah. Emergency Management. They're helping us, and we're going to try to replicate something that was done several years ago. I think Dr. Winborn was involved with that somewhat, but in talking about what would be a good use of our time and resources, we realized with the turnover that we have had, I saw this was in 2019, and it was a sort of a PD session that's focused on safety, and includes stop the bleed, CPR, general first aid, these kinds of things, and it allows staff members to literally be trained by folks who, you get hands-on training. It's a great exercise, and they can get some credits for this as well. So anyway, that's coming up in November. And finally, regarding the SROs and campus security, again, I just want to say our secondary schools are fully covered at this point. The elementary schools have off-duty folks dropping in. So we don't have anybody assigned directly to each elementary school, but we do have a presence there. I do want to say a special thank you to Chief Ed Newman and Lieutenant Laws for the work that they've done trying to make sure we have a presence. Chief Newman came to see me today, as a matter of fact, just to check in and say, how is it going? What can we do? I'm very appreciative of that. So that is the update that I have for you regarding safety, short and sweet. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
And again, Mr. Graham, thank you for all you did this summer to make this thing happen with Holly.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Are you taking questions?
Sure. Happy to, Ms. Hayes.
Always. So I was just wondering, you mentioned the safety partnership. Is that something that will come before us as a contract, or does it not meet the threshold?
No, it doesn't meet the threshold. It's
okay.
It's much smaller. I'll be glad to share it with you if you'd like to look.
I mean, I was just interested, you just sort of like briefly touched on, what the expectations of that would be. So I would just be interested in knowing like the scope of what's going to be involved.
Correct.
That's all.
Yeah. We're still, Doug and I are working out what that exact scope is going to look like, but
okay.
yeah. Be glad to share it with
Awesome.
you. Yeah.
Perhaps we could have him join you at a future meeting and
Absolutely.
kind of share what our direction is.
Absolutely. Introduce him to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you again. Our next section is Human Capital Management. Ms. Courtney Curran.
evening, everyone. So we have some good news in the Human Resources Department so that we're really excited to share. So when we started August 2023 and I came before you the first time, we had 58 vacancies in our certified staff members. We are down to 19. As of right now, we have 3 core teacher openings, the 4 EC openings, 3 ESL, which we actually have a candidate for one of those ESL positions. So we're expecting that to go down to 2 by the end of this month. And the 9 other are positions that just recently came open or something that we've had a hard time filling, such as 2 ROTC positions. We have difficulty filling those. And even when we get a candidate, it takes almost a year for us to be able to get them in sometimes. So, and then school counselor positions, a couple of CTE positions, and we have 1 AIG position that we have not been able to fill for a year, which is surprising, actually. Those are not generally hard to fill positions, but we have 1 that has been. So, but we're really excited. My team has worked really hard over the last month. Not a lot of sleep has happened in the HR department in the last month, but we have gotten a lot of people here. I do want to highlight, if you'll go to the next slide, please, that we are starting our Human Resources Innovation Committee this week. We're excited to tackle recruitment and retention first. Well, we don't have a whole lot of openings left, so we're going to focus on retention before we really dive much into recruitment, while, of course, that's still important, and we still want to make sure that we're recruiting because we will always have retirements and vacancies that come up. So, but our big focus is on retention, and some things that have already kind of been tossed around are housing issues that we have with people who are trying to move here to teach for us, because housing is a concern, and having affordable, available, high quality housing is something we would love to be in partnership with someone about. Another big focus for us, and something that is a little bit different than what we've done in the past, is we want to break apart the idea that we have 2 different types of employees, certified and classified. We want to bring everyone together. All employees are employees of Granville County Public Schools, and all employees are important, and they matter, and they help us with our school functioning. And so if we don't have them, doesn't matter if they're certified or classified, we're in trouble. You know, if HVAC goes out and we don't have somebody to fix it, we got a problem. So, you know, we want to make sure that we are recruiting all employees. And so one other focus of this recruitment and retention is making sure that we're including our classified staff members in those efforts as well. Next slide, please. Just going to bring this back up to you all because these are considerations for the future. I know we've discussed these before, but I'm going to bring them up again. Many of our incentives are going to be going away soon, and so we need to have some backup plans for incentives that have helped us hire. Hiring bonuses have been paid for using ESSER funding or vacancies. Those will be disappearing. The Granville County Public Schools longevity bonus, the last one is going to be paid out in February of 2024. And then this is also the last year for our teachers to get that 12% supplement for classroom teachers. It will go back to 10% after that. We also have 2 permanent long-term substitutes at every school this year, but again, that is a federally funded initiative. So that's something we want to kind of discuss, because it does make a difference for teachers when they don't have to cover classrooms. While we have been able to fill all these positions and we're really excited, many of those new hires are currently in the Philippines, and so they won't be here until November. So it's still an issue that we're having right at this moment, that there are vacancies that teachers are having to cover classes and do things like that. So we want to make sure that we're eliminating that as much as possible for them. And I think my next slide is questions.
So so I know we're not separating classified versus certified, but the vacancy overview that you have is certified only, not classified.
Right. So we'll fix that in the future. But we have 12 right now classified vacancies.
Ms. Kern, I'm concerned about the number we like to see in the EC department, 4. how are we making sure those kids' IEPs are being written, met with the parents, make sure to carry out based on their educational need?
So that's part of why Dr. Cotterman has brought contract to you. We do have some contracted services that we're using for EC. Of the 4 openings in EC we have right now, 2 of them are speech language pathologists.
Okay.
So the majority of our actual classrooms are covered, resource, adaptive, or they will be in November. Of the 18 vacancies that we had that we filled with candidates from the Philippines, the majority of those were EC vacancies.
Okay. Just to make sure we're mindful those kids are being served. I'm concerned about them. They're not
Yes.
getting their service.
Yes, she has plans in place for all of those.
Okay.
Any other questions about Smart?
Are you the next one, too?
Next one, too.
I thought so. 802,
Yes.
ESS presentation, and what a great job you've done on all this.
Thank you, Ms. Kern, for that.
So our next presentation, I'm actually going to ask Mr. Nelson and Ms. Garner to come up here and share with you. Speaking of vacancies, one other issue that we do have is we don't always have enough substitutes to fill in when our teachers are out, and so they have a solution for us, and I'll let them present that to you.
I want to hear this.
Last but not least,
We're all
good evening,
ears.
board members. Thank you so much for having us. I really appreciate it. My presentation is only going to be an hour, so. So I'm Robbie Nelson, Director of Business Development. This is Kayla Garner. She's Operations Manager for North Carolina. She oversees Person County and Vance, both of your neighbors. Does an outstanding job, the real magic maker. I'm just here to do the song and dance, but she's the one who actually makes it happen. So I'm happy to have her here. If you have any questions, sir. Oh, next slide. We'll do it that way. Can you zoom out a little bit? So who are we? Who's ESS? We've been in business for over 22 years. This is all that we do, pre-K through high school staffing. We're the largest provider and management company of substitute teachers and paraprofessionals in the country, and by far the leading provider in the state of North Carolina. We have 23 active districts. You can see the map up here. Some of your neighbors, Vance County, Person County, Roanoke Rapids. I guess another would be Chatham County, kind of close to you all as well. The one thing I want to point out on this slide, and actually it's at the bottom of the slide, if you could scroll up just a little bit, the high client satisfaction and retention rate. We're over 98% nationwide. We're actually closer to 100% in North Carolina. What that means is our contracts are 1 year long. That's it, 1 year with option years. And we have a 90-day out in our contracts. So what this tells you is all these districts up here sign on with ESS and they don't leave ESS. So that goes to show that our operations team is doing what you guys brought us on to do, which is fill your classrooms. Next slide, please. So this wheel right here is a 30,000-foot view, and we'll dive deeper into this in the next few slides, but we are not a temp agency. We're a full-service management company. So what that means is we handle all of your marketing, all of your recruiting, all of your onboarding, all of your training, all of your management and payroll for substitute staff. So your HR team no longer has to deal with that, or your finance team. Next slide. So recruiting, we are boots on the ground recruiting. We're going to hire an on-site team that's going to sit right here at your local district office. Okay, they're going to be comprised of someone that knows Granville County, that either went to school here, that graduated Granville County. We've hired a lot of retired educators to come work for us through districts. So just so you know, the money's going right back into the district. We're not bringing outsiders in to manage Granville County. Okay, we'll do local papers, flyers, lawn signs. We'll go out into your car pickup lines where the parents like to sit for 2 hours before schools get out and meet and greet and shake the hands. We'll do that as well. We'll be at all of your football games. We got some really cool. We'll do the foam fingers with your high school logo on one side and ESS on the other. So we'll hand those out. Do a lot of backpack flyers. We found that a lot of parents like to sub for us, so we'll be out there doing that as well. We've joined all of your local charities, community churches, nonprofits, and Chamber of Commerce. I will be acting that as well to help recruiting. If I'm missing anything, jump in here. So.
No, yeah, our approach is mostly just engaging your individual Granville County community and those that kind of extend beyond your students who are passionate about serving schools.
We also have a referral program, and this extends to anyone and everyone, administrators as well as parents. It's $100 per referral. So what that means, if you refer a person to be a substitute teacher, and once they work a certain amount of days, you get $100. We had a secretary at one of our districts in Georgia, I think it was Georgia, made about $1,500 before it was her Christmas money, just referring subs to the district. And there is no catch back. Next slide, please.
It also extends to your community members, so anyone can opt into this referral program.
I'll be honest, the training portion of what we do for your district, this is probably the reason why I work for the company. I have 2 children in elementary school, public education as well in North Carolina, and so does Kayla. The days of when we have a substitute and we sit back and kick our feet up and watch movies are over. We train. We have an extensive training program that we put that goes above and beyond what your district currently requires. It's a live, in-person, 5-hour training. This is for all new hires that we will bring on to make sure that they are ready and able to pick up the curriculum when the teacher calls out, because we want to make sure that your students are getting the education that they deserve.
Yeah, I think it's important to mention too that not only do we train, we really advocate for retraining, right? Whether it be, and it's listed here, professional teaching behavior, classroom management. It is part of our retention, right? Is to not just cut someone loose because of a shortcoming, but to really invest in them being in our community, in our schools.
So districts ask all the time, well, how can you do it better than us, right? Well, first of all, we have a lot more manpower as far as the recruiting goes. Dr. Winboard, I know you made an announcement earlier, who wants to drive buses? So there's 2 things that we do not provide districts. We can provide anything in the school, except we don't do armed guards, and we don't do bus drivers. However, almost all of the districts in North Carolina use us to help recruit bus drivers. So what we would do is they would drive the buses under your payroll. We just can't have them under our payroll for liability reasons. We'd go out of business if somebody wrecked a bus, but you can use us in our huge recruiting firm to help bring people in, candidates for Mr. Graham to interview.
We recently implemented this in Chatham County. We partnered with them on the hire of their teacher assistants. So we implemented 15 teacher assistants, and as a requirement of being an ESS teacher assistant, you must also have a bus license with Chatham County. So it's something that you all can think of as well as an incentive.
So back to what we can do better than the district can currently do to bring substitutes in. We pay weekly. They get paid every single Friday, direct deposit to their account. If they work 4 days in the month, they get health, dental, vision, and 401k through us. There's not a district in the state that provides benefits to substitutes currently. And so it's a great plan. It's through Cigna. I'm on the same thing as well as my children are. And they can get that for themselves, or they get that for themselves and their family as well. We do targeted incentives. We realize that Fridays and Mondays are big days for call-outs, or Super Bowl time, or anything else that's going on. Teacher work days, right? Labor Day. We'll offer gift cards. We'll give a $30 gift card to Lowe's or Chick-fil-A or Home Depot, or we'll even do gas cards. Hey, look, if you take this assignment on Friday, we'll pay you, and we'll also fill up your gas tank. We can do that as well, and that does not come out of district money. It comes out of our marketing expenses. We do monthly raffles, Teachers of the Year. I know that you guys currently do a Teacher of the Year award. We will co-sponsor that with you, and we'll have a substitute Teacher of the Year award. We have found that the reason why people want to work here is they really want to feel appreciated, and we want to make sure that the subs feel appreciated, because a lot of districts, they get overlooked sometimes. So we want to make sure we're able to do that as well. We are doing over the referral program, but we also have a $125 Kickstart initiative. So if there's any current cost for your subs to become a sub, TV test, background screening, whatever it may cost, we're going to pay for that service for them after they work a certain amount of days. We'll reimburse them for that, so there's no cost for them. We also have ESS Marketplace program. We're such a huge company. We're in over 900 districts nationwide. So your subs will get discounts on like Verizon, cell phones, different things that they can go online and buy and purchase at a discounted price just because we're a part of a huge market program. Next slide, please. So this is the reason why we're at almost 100% retention rate, because we hold ourselves accountable. At the end of the day, your principals have to be happy with the job that we're doing, right? We want to make sure that their classrooms are filled. So you can see at the bottom right-hand corner there, there's a principal survey that will go out to all of your principals. We do that quarterly.
Depends on the size of the district, but really we would talk to the HR team about what would be best implemented. So typically quarterly.
So this is our report card. They're gonna tell you point blank if ESS is doing the job that you guys hired us to do. So you're gonna know. We also handle all incidents. We understand that there are things that happen in classrooms. Your HR team no longer has to deal with that. We understand that sometimes in smaller communities that you may know the substitute. It may be a family member, and they may come to you and say, well, why was I blocked from this school? Well, you no longer have to deal with that. You say, you work for ESS, we don't know, and now we handle it, okay? So the district no longer has to handle incidents. Next slide, please. You're currently on Smart Find Express. I believe you're planning on staying on that program, correct? Possibly? Okay. And then there's there's also talks of upgrading your current absent management system. We're going to pay for that. So that's going to be a huge savings to the district as well. Next slide, please. So I love this graph. The difference between equality and equity, right? We want to, once we start with your all's district, if we get approved tonight, we want to take a look at your data and find out which schools really are struggling with getting substitutes. Because we think that every single student needs education, right? Doesn't matter if they're elementary age or they're high school age. And typically high schools and middle schools are a little bit difficult to find subs than the cute elementary kids, right? So we want to focus on those schools that are hard to fill and make sure we bring up the fill rates for all of your schools, not just the elementary age schools. Next slide, please. So transition typically takes about 4 to 6 weeks from once we get approved and the contract is signed. A letter will go out to your current subs, letting them know the great news. Hey, look, you're going to be working for ESS now. You get paid weekly. You get all these bonuses and health care. They absolutely will love it. You may find subs that are inactive become active because they find out that they get these great benefits for working with us. And we'll work hand in hand with your HR team and your finance team to get this up and running as smooth as possible. Next slide, please. So our goals for Granville County Schools, we want quality. Okay, we want a larger, more engaged pool of substitute teachers. We'll take a look at how many active subs you currently have and see if we can't, in most of your surrounding districts, we've doubled or even tripled those numbers in the first few months. So that's what we want to do. We want to resolve any gaps that you may have. If you're struggling at the high school level, we want to make sure we bring those fill rates up, okay, to match the other schools. And then local control, meaning you all set the district sets the pay rates. Any type of background checks or screening, we're going to mirror that process. We are customized to your district, okay? Next slide, please. So I wanted to show you what your neighbors are currently doing. We just recently started with Vance in Person County not too long ago. The left side is going to be your fill rates. The green dot is us. You can see when we took over in March, we got them up to 84%, and by June, we were almost 100% fill rates. 99% of their classrooms were filled within a very few months of using us. Their sub pool went from 51 to almost 90. I believe it's over 90. This is a couple weeks old, this graph here. But we've already got over 90 subs for their sub pool in such a very short time. Next slide, please. Person County Schools, we're at 100% fill rates. We went from 40 active subs to when we took over to now we're at 96. And I believe we started with them at the end of May. So within a month and a half, we were able to grow their sub pool that quickly. So the next question is what it's going to cost, right? Everybody wants to know that. There's no upfront cost for our services. There's no fees for our services. It's a pay for what you use program, okay? An example, your markup will be 34% of the pay rate. I know we kind of talked about this, Dr. Winmore was talking about this earlier with the previous contract. So if your pay rate is $100 a day, you would get a bill, and you had a sub that worked one day this week, you would get a bill the following week for $134. Now that's of the pay rate. You're currently not only paying that sub the pay rate, but you're also paying workers' comp, liability, unemployment claims. All that stuff is now gone. We take care of all that. You're only paying the markup. So what's included with that? You're getting an on-site team. You're getting regional and local support. We're going to handle all your payroll taxes. Unemployment claims now comes onto ESS. You no longer have to deal with those. Any liability or workers' comp issue claims come to us. The district is no longer liable for those as well. We're going to work with Smart Find Express until you guys see that you want to change, and then we'll pay for the newer program. We're also going to do a $3,000 a year scholarship for your high schools, and that will be paid out yearly to your district. Next slide, please. So once we begin, these burdens go away. Bookkeepers, admin, Principals spending time in the morning trying to backfill classroom, that's gone. HR, now they can really focus on filling those classrooms with certified teachers instead of worrying about who's going to backfill when someone calls out. I know that you're currently paying your teachers a little extra money to backfill or to cover classrooms. That goes away because now you have us. That's a huge saving for you all. We're going to handle all of your payroll, employee discipline, any kind of training or retraining, or any report running will come through us now. You'll no longer have to deal with that, which is going to alleviate a huge burden off of HR as well as finance. And I believe that is it. Any questions?
I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Yeah, very, very cool. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Do you try to say if a teacher's going to be out for 6 weeks, maternity or whatever, you try to keep that same person in there?
Oh, yeah. So the process is very different than a traditional daily substitute. What we do is we have a long-term portal where HR or the bookkeeper, whoever is designated for that task, will enter in the long-term assignment, and we intentionally handpick from our sub-pool or beyond someone that can be consistently in that classroom for the duration of the assignment. So we're very intentional because those folks are, deemed the teacher of record at that point.
And during that transition period, that 6 weeks or 4 to 6 weeks I was talking about, we're going to come in and sit down with HR as well as your principal meetings, because we realize that your principal probably have favorite subs that they want to call. Your teachers may have someone already they automatically call. That's their favorite person. We'll make sure that we call them first.
Yeah, I would
That
say
will
that
change.
we attempt to, absorb the burden, but we do not in any way want to take away the right of the schools, the teachers.
We just have some retired teachers that sometimes will come back and do that for, a couple of months or whatever.
Did not mention that.
Yes.
I'm glad you just said that.
Yeah.
This was a huge selling point for a lot of districts in North Carolina. So we are not a state-funded program. Therefore, your retirees do not pay for work 5 days a week.
They have to meet their individual pension cap, but beyond that, it's your discretion.
Interesting.
Was it,
29 and a half hours.
Yeah,
It is
well-
very, you mean with teasers?
I'm trying to remember what district, almost all their stuff were retirees, and they were ecstatic.
I know, I think it's on the East Coast.
And there's no right above over.
Yeah, yeah. Mark?
Question.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the funding side to this, and I guess my question partly go to the administration and you guys. And comparatively, what we spend on substitute now compared to what sounds like you're going to just save us. I mean,
It's probably, at the end of the day, it's probably about 6 to 8% difference.
shouldn't somebody on our administration have some idea about this?
Mr. Peace, I'm glad you asked that question. That was one of the first things we talked about before we really dug into this, because we knew that, funds, that's primary consideration. If we're not able to afford this, then it was pretty much a non-starter. We talked about it again today, just kind of making sure that we felt good about this. And Ms. Hines, you can speak to the details, but I will say this. Even if it does cost a little bit more, the benefits, I believe, are going to far outweigh in terms of the ability to actually staff all of these sub-positions that we need. If we can have similar rates to what our neighbors are having, it's going to make a huge difference for our students.
I mean, that's one of the concerns I have. I mean, they already do it locally, right around us, so we should have some idea of what they're doing.
I think so.
Because, while I was listening to you guys, you were sounding too good to be true for a while there.
We get that often.
But,
I agree, Mr. Peace.
Well, and I will say, Mr. Peace, both Ms. Hines and I have spoken to Vance County. I spoke on the HR side and she spoke on the finance side, and they are very happy with the services that ESS has provided. They have said it is worth every single penny because their fill rates are so much lower, and that they have not had any issues with the administration side of it. And of course, I'll let Ms. Hines speak to more of the finance, but on the HR side, they love it.
There's obviously a cost to it. What I find most interesting are those hidden benefits. Like he mentioned, the administrators don't have to worry about calling subs in the morning. But Another big issue that we have in our district is we use our teacher assistants to sub in classrooms. And when teacher assistants sub in classrooms, we also have to pay retirement. So that's an additional cost for what would just traditionally be a substitute in the classroom. And that also means that teacher assistant isn't doing their job at that moment, isn't supporting the classroom they're assigned to. So there are a lot of those hidden benefits that I really do believe make this a feasible option. And
Ms. Hines, number-wise, if I'm reading this correctly, it's about $35 to $40 per day more for a sub through ESS than if you're paying them directly.
The additional cost is about 34%, I think,
Okay.
is, whether they're certified or uncertified. It's 34% increase. However, you start taking out the retirement costs that we have to pay for our teacher assistants. We take out the cost of Smart Find, things like that. It does bring down that cost somewhat.
Did I understand that, for instance, we've got subs that have certain qualifications make more than other subs?
Correct.
So we would set that rate, is that what we're saying?
Yes, and we
Okay.
already have that
Right.
rate set.
What about long-term subs? Would they still, that are assigned to a specific school, would we keep those within the system?
Those are full-time employees within the district. Yes, so
So
that's a
that
separate
would not
position
affect them.
altogether.
Great, okay.
We also do permanent long-term subs, just so you know. Yeah, we've implemented them in many districts throughout the state. We call them building-based, but it's the same purpose. We have
What's the-
one in each school, in the San County School District, roughly about 85.
You talked early on about new hires, but you didn't say a lot about the subs you already have. What's the difference between the new people that you hire and the one that's already, or is there?
Yeah, so we would set district original status for the existing substitutes within your county. And so their requirements to onboard with ESS would, I'm sorry. So the district original substitutes that come to ESS from Granville County would be grandfathered in to their new hire status set forth by the HR team. And so they would just seamlessly roll into to the ESS system. And the difference with new hires is they would be trained in that 5-hour training course.
If you have district original subs that want to go through that training, we'll put them through the training, but typically, if a sub's been working for the district for a few years, they know what they're doing, they know the district very well, and we try to make it as easy on them as possible, because the last thing we want to do is come in and lose people. Because, you may have been working here for 5 to 10 years, and you get frustrated because I'm telling you, you got to go to a training now. We don't do that. So, but if they want to, more the merrier. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we also handhold those folks through the transition process. So as we onboard your district originals, we set up orientations with them, onboarding them to ESS, and actually transition them in person in an orientation session so that any of their concerns are answered.
One more question, I think. Do you have people located in the county that work for you guys?
So I'll actually recruit that person. As soon as, we start our partnership together, that's whenever I begin to recruit for that person. And they'll actually go through 2 rounds of interviews with ESS, and then I'll present them, and they'll also interview with your HR team.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to motion to approve that we approve this contract as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made, it's been second. Is there anything else we need? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
I'm like,
you all.
Mr. Peace, it sounded too good to be true, but the more you explained it, it was good.
Commit.
Now that you have a contract, how long does it take you to put the wheels in motion?
So what we'll do now is as soon as I get the contract back signed, we'll obviously sign that contract. I can do that I can do it tonight. But then we will sit down with Courtney and find out when a good time is to come in. Myself, as well as our implementation team will come in. We'll sit down with HR and your payroll and kind of come up with some dates because we want to announce the partnership We want your district to be able to do that, to announce it to the current subs, say, look, we're going with ESS, and then we will follow up with the communication, and then we'll start the transition process, and then we'll have a go-live date, which is typically whenever your payroll cutoff is. We want to kind of start on that next day. So we'll sit down with your payroll department and find out when that date is, and we'll be ready to go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Look forward to working with you.
You as well.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, I got a random thing. Courtney, I know we have the HR committee meeting on Friday. With this being approved, should we push that back like a week or two to get some wheels moving, or do you think we should keep that for Friday?
I think we should keep it for Friday
Okay.
because of the retention piece.
Cool.
Okay, we've reached the time where we're going to take probably about a 10-minute break, but before we do, let's get a motion to go into closed session for the purpose listed in our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made a second. All in favor?
Aye.
See you back in 10 minutes. All right, we have returned to open session to approve. We need a motion to approve the personnel report as presented in closed session. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve all certified and classified personnel as presented during closed session.
Second.
Thank you. It's been second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. The next item is items coming up. But before we get to that, Dr. Winborn has informed me that we most likely need a work session on October 16th because of school improvement plans that we have to look at and review. So just mark that on your calendar. We had decided that we would not do previously scheduled and just automatically do them, but do them as needed because of the way the months work out. So this is one of those times where we do need it. So I assume we'll do 4 o'clock. And hope everybody can be here because the principals will come for that.
Yes, ma'am. We plan to do, we haven't worked out all the details yet, but we
Mhm.
plan to do it in an informal sort of style where they can rotate in small groups
Okay.
and give you a chance to interact informally with them and just ask questions and, really dig into what their plans are. Elbow to elbow, so to speak.
Are the 4 areas: safety, behavior, attendance, and academics?
I think you'll find that they're all working on that. But they each have their own different approaches depending on, what's going on in their school buildings. Yes, ma'am.
All right, we have dates to remember. September 14th, Board of Education Operations Committee meeting, 8 o'clock, Mary Potter, Center for Education. September 19th, Board of Education Finance Committee meeting at 9 a.m. at Central Office. September 20th, Policy Committee meeting, 9 a.m. at Central Office. And we're going to try to get through that within 2 hours because about 2 hours is all we can take. And it's amazing how long it can take when you get into it. But we'll do what we got to do. September 21st, early release day, all traditional calendar schools. It's a staff professional development day. September 22nd, teacher work day for Granville Early College High School. And I'll go back. Excuse me. I don't know why I've got a scratchy throat today. September 15th, we have the Human Resources Intervention Committee. That will be at 11:30. And where will we have that? Central office?
Central office.
We'll do central office. And Dr. Frederick, you on that committee, so if you can join us virtually if you're not able to come in. We'll, great, great. Okay. And October the 2nd will be our next regular Board of Education meeting, 6 o'clock back here at Mary Potter Center for Education. And again, we have scheduled in October 16th the work session. So just put that on your calendar. It looks like we're really cranking up on our committee meetings, so hang in there, guys. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yep.
So moved.
I like the yep.
That was a yep.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for your hard work tonight.
Yep.